Chapter 361. Not knowing if it was her misperception, Yiqing Luo inexplicably felt that the freshman whom they were referring to seemed to be her. These two people, who on earth were they? Moreover, why did one of their voices sound so familiar? But no matter how she searched her super-strong memory, she couldn't recall who this voice belonged to. Somehow, she felt that she had heard something incredible. She furrowed her brows, and her expression became slightly dignified. If the news of her cleaning the second story of the library pavilion were to spread, these two people would definitely think that she had eavesdropped on their conversation. Even if they weren't sure if Yiqing Luo had really heard it. But apparently, the matter they were discussing was an extremely important matter. She would rather kill wrongly than let it go. Sigh. She didn't expect that she would bump into such a matter when she was punished to clean the library pavilion. She was afraid. Her future days were not going to be peaceful. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pinched her aching brows. This matter, she would discuss it with Dmo Xian tonight. For now, it was better to tidy up the second story first. Before the other party took any action, she better not let the cat out of the bag. Yiqing Luo finished stretching her limbs and was preparing to leave the room when her footsteps halted. Because the room she was in now wasn't the reading room. Earlier when she hid in, she placed all her attention on the conversation between the two and totally didn't notice the surrounding environment. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she surveyed the surroundings of the room. This wasn't a reading room, but an alchemy room. In the spacious room, there were two large medicinal cabinets along the wall, and in the middle of the room were two huge wooden tables. On the wall opposite the medicinal cabinets, there was a bookshelf and books were piled messily on it. On the wooden table, there was a pile of bottles and jars. Some were successfully refined pills and some failed pills, all piled up into a messy pile. On the other wooden table, there were various kinds of alchemy equipment as well as messy medicinal herbs and magical beast skin and bones. Why was there an alchemy room on the second story of the library pavilion? As an alchemist, upon seeing these rare medicinal herbs and pills, Yiqing Luo instantly became excited as she walked quickly to the front of the wooden table. Yiqing Luo first looked at the pill refining equipment on the table, as she started to sort out the messy pile of medicinal herbs. Every single type of herbs, Yiqing Luo would use her fingers to measure the size of these herbs, and from time to time she would sniff it. Yiqing Luo had seen these herbs in the 100-pill refining books and they were all rare and precious. But there were several herbs which Yiqing Luo couldn't identify. After Yiqing Luo had distributed these medicinal herbs, her vision turned towards the other table where those bottles and jars were. She walked over and picked up a bottle. The medicine bottle was just an ordinary porcelain, and it could not hide the faint fragrance of medicine. Yiqing Luo sniffed it and opened one of the bottles, pouring out one pill. It was a small, exquisite pill. There was even a faintly discernible flowing light on the surface of the pill. This discovery made Yiqing Luo's eyes burst out a ray of light. She had refined so many elixirs, but none of the elixirs she had refined had such a peculiar phenomenon. Putting the pills back into the bottle, Yiqing Luo casually picked up the wooden box by the side, which was filled with failed pills. The pills were full of potholes and had yet to take shape. Yiqing Luo picked up one pill and took a look. That medicinal fragrance apparently wasn't refined using ordinary pills. Chapter 362. Yiqing Luo walked around, and conveniently tidied up the messy things on the table. These medicinal herbs were very light and didn't require much effort. Yiqing Luo used one hand to tidy up the things on the two tables. She noticed the medicinal cabinets and bookshelves in the room. To an alchemist, the medicinal herbs and books used to refine pills were the most interesting things in the world. Yiqing Luo was no exception. Her current level of alchemy was still stuck at the level of an alchemist. Although she was still one stage away from being a grandmaster, but the pills that the two of them refined were not just one grade apart. This alchemy room was obviously the place of a top-grade alchemist who was above her. Pills and medicinal herbs were not ordinary items. Presumably the books on the bookshelves were precious alchemy books which couldn't be found in the outside world. With this thought in mind, Yiqing Luo walked towards the bookshelves. Her hand had just touched the bookshelf and she wanted to take out a book. However, as soon as his hand touched it, before he could even react, the ground beneath his feet suddenly became empty, and his body abruptly sank. This sinking, Yiqing Luo's hand directly fell onto a slope and her entire body rolled down the slope. The pain from the wound which she had finally stopped was once again felt a heart-wrenching pain. That warm light which was released from the profound jade heart started to spread chaotically in her body. Her 5 viscera and 6 bowels were no longer covered by the warm light. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain invaded her limbs and bones. Damn it! She was in so much pain. Yiqing Luo broke out in cold sweat as she laid on the ground with her limbs spread wide open, totally unable to move. The pain from the whip and internal injury struck her at the same time and she really couldn't take it. Lying on the ground, she panted heavily. After some time, she slowly regained her senses. There was actually a secret passage in that alchemy room. She didn't know what she had bumped into, but she actually fell into the secret passage. Yiqing Luo's head moved as she checked the surrounding situation. This was an extremely spacious secret room. In the entire secret room, there was only a medicinal cauldron in the middle. At this moment, that medicinal cauldron was floating in mid-air and below the medicinal cauldron was a ball of warm fire. Apparently it was in the process of refining pills. But there was no alchemist around. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment as she carefully scanned the surroundings and released her perception. However, there was indeed no one else in the empty secret room. Girl, the person who refined this medicine cauldron should be an ancestral alchemist. Old Man Tsang's voice sounded in her mind. The medicine sect. Yiqing Luo was shocked. Isn't it the same level as your alchemy? The quality of this alchemist's medicine refinement should be above mine. Old Man Tsang sighed with emotion. Alchemists above the alchemy ancestor level can leave at any time in the middle of refining pills. Like Yiqing Luo, when she was refining the medicinal pills, she had to sit by the side of the divine dragon cauldron at all times, controlling the heart fire and observing the formation of the medicinal pills. If she could advance to the rank of a medicine master, she would be able to control her heart fire as she pleased during pill refinement. She would no longer need to watch over her pill refinement and she would be able to save a lot of time. Lass, think of a way to leave this place. Old Man Tsang said worriedly, if we wait for the medicine sect's alchemist to return, I'm afraid that he will mistakenly think that you're trying to steal the pills. At that time, it will be troublesome if there's a misunderstanding. Indeed troublesome. Based on Yiqing Luo's current condition, if she really met with a medicine sect's alchemist, she wouldn't even have the ability to escape. If the Heavenly Academy's medicine sect's alchemist treated her as a student who stole the pills and captured her to the director, the news of her being in the library pavilion today would probably spread throughout the entire academy. Chapter 363. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes and slept quietly for a moment. Following that, she took a deep breath and forcefully endured the intense pain as she sat up straight. The 4 sides were sealed off by stone walls and the slope which she had rolled down from earlier was also sealed off by the stone wall, with no entrance to be seen. Based on Yiqing Luo's current state, there was no way to open that stone wall. This is troublesome. Old Man Tsang's tone was grave. I have no way to manifest my spiritual body to open this stone wall for you, why not? Summon Shiju out to try. Yiqing Luo nodded. She couldn't use her strength. But luckily, she had Shiju with her. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and called Shiju out. Shiju was in the pet space and had already heard their conversation. The minute it appeared, it didn't need Yiqing Luo's instruction as its little body arched up. Its fur stood up and its body suddenly became huge. Roar! Shiju gave a low growl as its beast eyes were pitch black and sharp. Its huge body suddenly leapt up and its huge leopard claw directly slammed onto the stone wall. Bam! A loud sound was heard. Yiqing Luo felt the entire secret room shook thrice. But that stone wall didn't move at all, not even a single piece of debris. Yiqing Luo blinked. Shiju blinked. One human and one beast looked at each other, speechless. What the hell was this situation? Shiju's claw had used 80% of its strength and it was actually unable to break through this stone wall. What kind of place was this? So powerful. Roar roar! Shiju's eyes flashed as it raised its claw unyieldingly and slammed onto that stone wall. This claw shook the entire secret room, as though it was about to collapse. Yiqing Luo's body swayed a little, causing waves of throbbing pain in her internal organs. Her slender brows creased into a bundle as she sucked in several breaths of cold air. However, the stone wall still didn't budge. Don't tell me I really have to wait for that sex alchemist to return before I can leave. Roar roar! Shiju's body suddenly shrunk as it nestled beside Yiqing Luo, sticking out its little tongue as it licked her face. The low whimper seemed to be apologizing to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. It's not your fault, I know you've tried your best, looks like. The owner of this secret room is a very powerful person. Even as a mirage beast, Shiju had no way of knocking open this stone wall. This was enough to prove that the medicine sex alchemist's power was definitely at the earth mystic realm and above. Yiqing Luo had just finished her words when suddenly a light fluttering voice was heard by her ear. This little girl is quite self-aware. This voice was so cold that it seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. Before Yiqing Luo could even turn around, her body suddenly felt light as she was grabbed by her collar and forcefully pulled up. Shiju, who was lying by her side, because of the sudden action, fell off Yiqing Luo's body as it waved its little claws towards the sky. This action made Yiqing Luo's internal organs feel as though they were being torn apart, causing her forehead to be filled with cold sweat. A skinny old man stood in front of him. His entire body was enveloped in a white long robe, even his head was covered tightly. This white robe didn't look like the robes of the master's or elder's quarters. It was plain and clean without any patterns, just like a clean piece of white cloth. The only adornment was the 5 golden star-shaped badge which was embedded in front of his chest. Under the long robe, that pair of malicious eyes were so cold that there wasn't a single trace of emotion. His hand easily grabbed Yiqing Luo's collar as he got closer to her. Young lady, get out of here. Chapter 364. This throw made Yiqing Luo like a kite with a broken string as she fell out. Yiqing Luo couldn't muster up any strength, so she had no way to maintain her balance. Seeing that it was about to crash into the stone wall, that Shiju, which was sprawled on the ground, scurried towards Yiqing Luo like lightning. Its body size turned huge in time as it used its plump and huge body to block Yiqing Luo. Shiju's skin was very thick, and the moment it crashed into it, Yiqing Luo felt as though her body was falling apart as the pain was unbearable. This man. His temper was really weird. Throwing her away without any explanation, did he treat her as an object? Yiqing Luo's collar was held in Shiju's mouth as it slowly placed her on the ground. It specially laid on the ground as it used its body to support Yiqing Luo's body. Earlier it was you, this little thing, who wanted to smash the secret room which I used 1,000-years-old crystal to create. Long-robed old man's cold gaze shot towards Shiju. When he saw Shiju, his eyes flashed past a trace of covetous intent. Good skeleton. Good skin. His words had just ended when the long-robed old man's figure flashed and stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Under the loose long robe, a withered yellow arm stretched out as its 5 fingers turned into a claw as it clawed towards Shiju's neck. That momentum was extremely ferocious, as though a whirlwind had struck. Mirage beasts were born with strong senses and could acutely sense the long-robed old man's murderous intent, as its eyes instantly filled with a scarlet color. Its fangs bit onto Yiqing Luo's collar as it speedily retreated. Bam! A loud sound was heard as the long-robed old man's hand, which had turned into an eagle's claw, struck against the stone wall. Earlier, no matter how Shiju slammed against the stone wall, it didn't even leave a single scratch on the stone wall. That eagle's claw had actually scratched out 5 cracks. Stone splattered out as it landed on the ground. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted as her heart was overwhelmed with shock. This old man was not an ordinary kind of powerful. Shiju was unable to smash the stone wall, but he had easily left a mark on it. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to imagine what would happen if the old man's hand had landed on Shiju's neck. Her eyes were covered with a layer of vigilance and coldness, as she was worried that Shiju would be frightened. She endured the pain as she caressed Shiju's body as she patted it gently. After all, Shiju's age among the mirage beasts was only equivalent to a 7 or 8-year-old child. "Little girl, leave the magical beast. You scram." The cold voice was filled with madness and excitement. The pair of eyes under the white robe seemed to be staring at its prey, revealing a bloodthirsty delight. This old man's madness was completely unlike Guo Yu's wanton madness. It was true insanity. From this old man's tone and expression, Yiqing Luo was extremely certain that he wasn't joking. Recalling the magical beast's skin and bones on the table in the pill refining room, Yiqing Luo's heart surged with a chill. This old man wanted to use Shiju's skin, flesh, and bones to turn them into ingredients for refining medicine. "Senior, I'm a student of the devil class. Today I've been punished to the 2nd level to clean up. I didn't mean to offend Senior." Her eyes were alert, her tone was neither servile nor overbearing. She revealed her identity. For this old man to be in the Heavenly Academy and to be able to establish his own alchemist on the 2nd floor of the library pavilion, he must be one of the higher-ups in the Heavenly Academy. It was very likely that they were from the Elder Division. As a student, she was protected by the Academy. That old man in long robe raised his withered yellow arm and directly lifted the robe on his head, revealing a skinny little face. He was over 50 years old, his face was pale and his eyelids sunken, looking as though he was physically weak. But his dignified expression made one feel intimidated. Chapter 365. Even if I have no intention to offend you, I will absolutely not allow anyone to step into my pill refining room. Long-robed old man's lips curled into a sinister arc. "Either you scram and leave the magical beast behind, or both of you and the magical beast stay behind." Looked like this old man had his eyes on her Shiju. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly, feeling helpless that she had fallen into this secret room and was thrown by the old man, causing her internal injury to relapse, and now she couldn't even teleport. Otherwise, she could still make use of this skill to escape from this place. Since she couldn't escape, she couldn't possibly leave Shiju behind and leave alone. It was because Shiju's mother believed in her ability, that she passed her precious son to her, to let him grow up together with her. She absolutely could not let down Shiju's mother's trust. More importantly, she, Yiqing Luo, didn't have the habit of using her companion to exchange for her own life. Seeing Yiqing Luo not moving, the old man's sinister eyes flashed past a sly sneer. That withered skinny fingers turned into a claw once again as his feet moved. His speed was so fast that Yiqing Luo couldn't catch him at all. She only felt a gust of murderous cold wind blowing towards her. Something flashed in front of Yiqing Luo, and the target was still Shiju. Her breathing tightened as her right hand suddenly raised up and a feather fan opened up, sweeping a gust of strong wind. Ding! A crisp sound was heard as the old man's 5 claws crashed directly onto the feather fan. That strong force made Yiqing Luo's arm feel numb in pain. The feather fan in her hand fell onto the ground. Her uninjured hand had already lost all feeling as it lay stiffly by her side. However, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't show any signs of fear. Her face was as pale as before, but her gaze was like a torch, filled with unyielding determination. It is my companion, not a pill refining ingredient. Shiju gave a low growl as its huge beast head rubbed against Yiqing Luo's face. Its head was the size of half of Yiqing Luo's body. This rubbing made Yiqing Luo wrapped up tightly by Shiju, not revealing any part of her. It turned its head and bared its sharp fangs at the old man. Its scarlet eyes expressed its fury. One human and one beast, mutually protecting each other. He knew that he was no match for the old man, but he still placed him at the apex of his heart. Yiqing Luo's gaze was like a torch as she stared at the old man. Using Shiju's huge body as a cover, her fingers had already touched the profound phoenix ring. The long-robed old man's strike was blocked by Yiqing Luo, and he was obviously astonished. When he heard her sonorous and forceful words, the old man's expression was not as cold as before. You know that magical beasts are ingredients for alchemy. The monster cores, flesh, and bones of magical beasts are all good materials for alchemy. The higher the level of the magical beast, the higher the success rate of alchemy. Also, the medicinal effects of the refined pills will be stronger than ordinary pills. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she honestly answered the old man's question. The fact that he could talk to her nicely and didn't try to kill her at the slightest disagreement meant that there was still a possibility of peace. The old man narrowed his malicious eyes as he slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Every step he took, Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Her fingers had already touched the edge of the profound phoenix ring as she took out the pain-relieving pills which Baiming Lu had given her. The old man stopped in front of her. How did you know? Ordinary alchemists would usually follow the rules and follow the pill's secret manuals as well as the pill list which they had comprehended themselves to refine pills. But in refining pills, other than the alchemist's own skills, the second most important thing was spiritual qi. Chapter 366. I've read about it in a medicinal pill book. Yiqing Luo had indeed read about it in the 100 Pills Refining book, which was about using magical beasts as medicinal ingredients to refine medicinal pills. She intentionally avoided the name of the 100 Pills Refining book. After all, this was old man Song's private collection, and from his treasured look, she knew that this book was absolutely extraordinary. As the saying goes, don't reveal your wealth. Facing such a temperamental strange old man, Yiqing Luo naturally couldn't reveal all her background. The old man propped his chin thoughtfully as he looked down at the young lady who was leaning on the mirage beast's back. Her face was extremely pale, but there wasn't a single shred of cowering expression on her face. His cold lips suddenly laughed out. The things on the table in the pill refining room, were you the one who tidied it up? Yiqing Luo replied with an "n" as her heart was filled with suspicions. Could it be that this old man wanted to kill her because she had touched his things? Seeing Yiqing Luo admit to it, the old man grinned as he took a step forward and kicked something. Lowering his head to take a look, it was an open feather fan. Earlier it was this feather fan which had caught the eagle claw which he had struck out. The old man bent over with interest as he prepared to pick up the feather fan. That skinny finger was just about to touch that feather fan when a dazzling light flashed past. His finger was struck by an electric current and his entire palm felt numb. This feather fan was resisting him. The old man's sinister eyes narrowed slightly as he sized up Yiqing Luo without blinking, feeling that it was getting more and more interesting. Interested in refining pills? Yiqing Luo didn't understand the meaning of the old man's question. Her sharp eyes blinked as she met the old man's sinister and treacherous face. Her slender brows creased slightly. What are you trying to say? The old man straightened his back as he kicked that feather fan but didn't reply Yiqing Luo's question. He touched his sleeves but didn't seem to touch anything as the expression on his face contorted and became slightly infuriated. He flicked his sleeves as he strode towards the secret room's stone wall. That stone wall which Shiju's two claws couldn't lift earlier had an entrance split open. The old man swiftly walked out of the entrance and after a while, he carried two books and threw them towards Yiqing Luo's face. Yiqing Luo couldn't avoid it as Shiju howled, and when the books flew over, it opened its mouth and held it tightly. You have 2 hours to memorize everything on this. If you can't, I'll fulfill the sincere feelings of a man and a beast and throw the two of you into the medicine cauldron to refine medicine. Throwing this sentence, the old man flicked his sleeves and went back. The moment the stone wall disappeared and the stone wall immediately. The stone wall fell into a dead silence once again. Other than her and Shiju's breathing, there was no other sound. She. And he even memorized all the things on it. Could it be that this old man has an intermittent relapse disease? Lass, don't you want to raise your own level of alchemy? Old man Tsang sensed that Yiqing Luo was holding onto a book on alchemy and was in a daze, so he immediately opened his mouth. Lass, don't you want to raise your own pill refining stage? Old man Tsang sensed that Yiqing Luo was in a daze as he opened his mouth. At this stage, other than memorizing the contents of these two books, there was no other way. This was the only choice she could make. Yiqing Luo endured the pain as she shifted her body and rested her head on Shiju's back. The book then stood up against Shiju's thick claws. This book recorded all kinds of medicinal herbs. The shape, characteristics as well as the growing location and environment were written clearly. Chapter 367. This was a book for beginners in alchemy. Although Yiqing Luo had the 100-pill refining manual in her hands, but in the 100-pill refining manual, it recorded various precious pill refining methods. However, there was no detailed description of the medicinal herbs and their effects. Yiqing Luo was able to step into the medicine master stage under such a dazed situation. Other than Old Man Tsang and Cauldron Dragon's guidance, it was because of her strong comprehension ability which gave her an advantage. At this point, the minute Yiqing Luo saw the entry-level medicinal pill book, she was immediately engrossed in it. He couldn't even feel the pain in his body anymore. If an ordinary person were to read these books, they would find it difficult. There were too many medicinal herbs that only had a slight difference in appearance, but their medicinal effects were completely different. There were also too many herbs that he had never heard of, and their effects and uses were extremely unfamiliar. A long time ago, Yiqing Luo had developed a unique memory method. Thousands of medicinal herbs which were hard to differentiate seemed to have been copied by Yiqing Luo's eyes, as they were all imprinted in her mind. In less than 1 hour, Yiqing Luo had memorized that book. Shijua considerately bit another book and placed it beside his leg. Maintaining the same posture, after regaining her senses from the sea of books, Yiqing Luo felt waves of numbness in her 4 limbs, which was extremely uncomfortable. She moved, trying to change her position so she could continue reading. But when she moved, her body twitched uncontrollably a few times. An intense pain spread from all 4 of his limbs. Roar roar. Seeing this, Shiju let out a low roar, and its pitch-black beast eyes were filled with worry. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she shook her head. She moved her fingers and took out the painkiller again. Baiming Lulu had repeatedly warned him that this kind of medicinal pill could only be taken once at most. If it was taken too closely, not only would it lose the effect of the painkiller, but it would also cause side effects. Yiqing Luo originally didn't intend to take the second pill, but after seeing this strange old man, if she didn't even have the energy to escape, it would bode ill rather than well. Damn the Yiqing Jian. By the time her body recovered, she would let Yiqing Qian suffer an even more devastating pain. Yiqing Luo was about to stuff the medicine into her mouth when suddenly a slight burst of energy struck towards her face. Yiqing Luo wanted to hide, but her body couldn't keep up with her brain's reaction. That force directly hit the back of her hand. The painkiller in his hand bounced on the ground, rolling and rolling. He rolled in front of a pair of boots. He lifted his leg and stepped on the painkiller. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she followed the direction of his legs and looked upwards. "Senior, what about the agreed 2 hours? You actually dared to take this kind of inferior and harmful elixir. If you want to shorten your lifespan, I can fulfill your wish right now." The old man glanced at her coldly and walked towards her. The painkiller under his feet was crushed to pieces. Inferior quality. If Bai Ming Lulu heard these words, perhaps she would fly into a rage. However, the old man was right about one thing. Although this kind of pain-relieving pill could relieve the body's pain for a certain period of time, it was not enough. But such a pill was too harmful to the body. Especially if one took too many, it was very likely that they would become addicted to this type of pill. If he didn't eat it for a day, the pain would be unbearable. Injured. The old man narrowed his sinister eyes as he slowly bent down and directly grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. Not knowing if the old man did it on purpose, this claw just happened to grab Yiqing Luo's injured arm. Chapter 368. The old man frowned, and after smelling the blood stench from Yiqing Luo's body, his expression instantly turned gloomy. He hated trouble. But the young lady who barged into his secret room kept on creating trouble for him. He wanted to settle this trouble directly with one palm, but on seeing the young lady, who was obviously immobile but in order to protect her own war pet, she stood out bravely, he suddenly felt a little reluctant. Especially when he thought of the medicinal herbs which he had made into a ball on the pill refining table, but had been sorted according to the medicinal effects, he felt even more reluctant. Moreover, this young lady actually knew how to use the magical beast's skin and bones as medicinal herbs to refine medicinal pills, to gather the spiritual qi of the pill refining, to make the medicinal effect of the pill even stronger. The old man was a pill refining maniac. This young lady was kind-hearted and calm when faced with problems. Even when facing his murderous intent, she was still able to remain calm in the face of danger. She even knew quite a bit about medicinal herbs, so the old man was filled with admiration. The old man's inner heart was struggling, as he kept on scratching his head in frustration. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and didn't feel any murderous intent from the old man, so she mustered up her courage and said, "I suffered some internal injuries and now I can't concentrate because of the pain. I've just finished reading a book and want to take some painkillers to concentrate on finishing the second book." Her words had just ended when Yiqing Luo's wrist was already locked by the old man. The speed was so fast that Yiqing Luo totally couldn't react in time. The old man's 2 fingers were placed on her pulse. The strength was extremely strong and Yiqing Luo totally couldn't move at all. "TSK, TSK, TSK, you really know how to torture yourself." The old man flung her hand away and shook his head in disdain. A profound cultivator in the mystic profound realm, her body is filled with earth profound qi, her internal organs are not shattered, she's really lucky. Just one pulse and the old man accurately and speechlessly described Yiqing Luo's body's condition. Young lady's willpower is not bad. If it was anyone else, they would have fainted from this kind of pain. The old man seemed to be in deep thoughts as his lips twitched, revealing a smile. It was just that this smile, when paired with his cold and ruthless face, seemed exceptionally strange. The old man released Yiqing Luo's wrist and stood up. "From tomorrow onwards, report to the pill refining room every day and help me clean the place." Yiqing Luo went into a blank as her eyes blinked. What the hell was this situation? Did the old man not intend to take her life? "You have the foundation to differentiate the herbs, why are you so stupid?" Seeing Yiqing Luo's blank look, the old man's tone became anxious again. Little Luo, quickly agree to him. Old man Song was anxious for Yiqing Luo in the Azure Dew bracelet. This elder-level alchemist is going to teach you the ability to refine pills. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a long time. This strange old man was mysterious and unpredictable. Yiqing Luo didn't know what was his motive for making her stay behind. Don't be too happy too early. If you don't meet my requirements, I will still chase you out of here. The old man snorted coldly as he took out a jade bottle from his sleeve and threw it onto Yiqing Luo. The jade bottle was made of ordinary porcelain, and there was a faint fragrance of fresh medicine coming from the bottle cap. What painkiller pills? Pills that hurt the body. You're not allowed to casually take them in the future. The old man frowned, his thin face wrinkled. Following that, a few more books were thrown at Lin Fan's face. After that, the old man flicked his sleeves and left the secret chamber. This time round, that opened entrance didn't close up. This old man, he was really temperamental. Just a moment ago he wanted to kill her, but the next moment he treated her as one of his own. Chapter 369. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate and popped a pill into her mouth. She didn't doubt if the strange old man's pill could cure her internal injury. If the strange old man wanted her life, it was just a snap of his fingers. There was no need to spend so much effort. The pill melted in her mouth like a warm spring water, flowing down her throat and slowly seeping into her body. That ball of warmth wrapped around her heart. The pain in her body gradually subsided. Lass, if you want to raise your alchemy level as soon as possible, you do need someone to lead you. Although this alchemist has a strange temper, but if you can get his guidance, you will soon be able to advance to a Grandmaster alchemist. Old man Tsang was really envious of Lass Luo's luck. Coincidentally, he had bumped into a medicine ancestor level alchemist and even caught the eye of the other party. With Lass Luo's aptitude, breaking through to the Grandmaster level was just around the corner. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes after she had swallowed all the pill's effects. Her originally heavy and painful body became much more relaxed. She could also do some simple movements of raising her hand and getting up. Yiqing Luo placed the jade bottle into the profound phoenix ring. It was indeed a pill refined by an alchemist of Grandmaster. If she took one a day, her body would definitely recover in less than 3 days. Yiqing Luo recalled the strange old man's skinny face and her lips couldn't help but curl up. Although the strange old man's temper was a bit strange, but his character was similar to old man Guiyu. If she stayed by his side and learned some knowledge about alchemy, it would only be beneficial to her and no harm at all. Moreover, Ziling's leg was still waiting for her to treat. Moreover, she still needed to help old man Tsang reconstruct his body. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed a trace of determination as she borrowed Shiju's strength to stand up. She stretched out her limbs. Although her body was still a little uncomfortable, it was no longer that kind of heart-wrenching pain from before. Keeping Shiju back into the pet space, Yiqing Luo left the secret room. After walking out of the secret room, she returned to the alchemy room. Before she fell into the secret room, the herbs and equipment that she had tidied up were messed up again. The 2 tables were in a terrible mess. And that strange old man was not in the medicine refining room. Just as he was about to tidy up the things on the table again, he heard a soft thud coming from outside the tightly shut door. Yiqing Luo's movements froze. Someone came to the 2nd floor of the library. The minute she recalled the plan that the 2 middle-aged men were discussing, Yiqing Luo's heart started to hang in suspense. Lower your voice. A low shout came from outside the door. When she heard this voice, Yiqing Luo's grave expression immediately relaxed. It was Qiao Jin's voice. Listening to the footsteps outside, there were about 4 people. Yiqing Luo opened the pill refining room's door and walked out, just in time to see Qiao Jin standing in the middle of the long corridor, directing the other 3 to clean up the library pavilion. Hearing footsteps behind him, Qiao Jin sharply turned his head. On seeing that it was Yiqing Luo, his face revealed a joyous expression. Student Yi, where have you been? When the other 3 heard the noise, they immediately put down what they were doing and jogged over. After they found out that Yiqing Luo was punished to the second story of the library pavilion, they immediately rushed over to the second story. Although she was punished to the library pavilion, it was justifiable for her to avoid training. But with Yiqing Luo's current condition, she probably couldn't even do simple cleaning. Because of this, Xiao Jin brought along 3 students to the second story to help. Chapter 370. Xiao Jin was burning with anxiety, worried that Yiqing Luo had fainted in some corner because of her body's condition. As he asked Yan Xiaoyi and the rest to clean the library pavilion, he sent out a signal for Devil Class's students to search around the academy. Following that, he searched every corner of the second story. On the second story of the library pavilion, under the situation where they were tidying and searching at the same time, Yiqing Luo finally appeared after they had tidied up halfway. "Rest here." Yiqing Luo pointed to the door behind her. Xiao Jin and the others' agitated faces instantly froze. All of them opened their mouths wide in astonishment as they rubbed their eyes and looked towards the wooden signboard on the door of that room. On the door of the room, there was a wooden sign with the words, "Medicine Refinement Room." You actually entered this room." Xiao Jin pointed at the pill refining room as his expression changed. "How long have you been resting in that room for?" "Didn't meet anyone." From their expressions, Yiqing Luo could roughly guess. Earlier, that strange old man should be an influential figure in this academy. Even Xiao Jin was terror-stricken. "I met a strange old man." Yiqing Luo told them the truth. The 4 of them exchanged glances as their eyes were filled with astonishment. "Met Ghost Doctor. Then how did you walked out in one piece?" The few of them were filled with questions. Their devil class had been in the academy for so many years and they had never been afraid of anyone. Only this temperamental ghost doctor was simply hard to fathom. "Our academy's ghost doctor is the academy's #1 alchemist and he has already reached the stage of alchemy ancestor. In the entire Nirvana realm, there are probably less than 5 alchemy ancestor alchemists." When Bei Ming Lu mentioned about pill refining and ghost doctor, her eyes were filled with obvious admiration and worship. Ghost doctor. So that strange old man was called Ghost Doctor. Ghost Doctor's temper is too explosive and in the entire academy, other than Master Guiyu, no one else can tolerate his character. So the academy specially set up an independent pill refining room for him on the second story of the library pavilion. The traffic on the second story of the library pavilion was lesser, and if it wasn't for the academy's special assignment, students from high profound class or class of gods wouldn't be able to find the time to read the books on the second story. To these students, instead of reading these armchair strategizing books, it was better to spend more time cultivating Xian Qi and work hard to improve their Xian level. The ghost doctor's temper is really abnormally bad. No one is allowed to take a single step into his medicine refining room. Previously, I heard that Elder Yun Xiang had received the dean's orders to come to the medicine refining room to look for him, but was directly chased out by the ghost doctor. At this point, Bai Ming Lu's face also collapsed. The ghost doctor never accepts disciples. There were students who wanted to learn alchemy, thinking that they could use their sincerity to move the ghost doctor. In the end, they were also kicked out. Looking at Bai Ming Lu's expression, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. "Among them, includes you, right?" "Of course. The ghost doctor is my motivation to move forward, my goal." Bai Ming Lu slightly raised her head, her clear and beautiful eyes were tinged with a trace of unswerving determination. It was an incomparably resolute gaze for the sake of one's dream, for the sake of one's goal. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes rose, the corners of her long and narrow eyes outlined an extremely shallow arc. Heaven will not mistreat a hardworking child. Bai Ming Lu rubbed her nose. Her beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at the wooden signboard behind Yiqing Luo which had the words, "Pill Refining Room." Chapter 371. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment. He asked me to report to the pill refining room every day, to help him clean up. Xiao Jin. Bei Ming Lu's eyes widened as she hugged her head. Tong Ziqing's little face was icy cold, but her eyes were filled with astonishment. Yan Xiaoyi's watery eyes blinked as she dug her ears, turning her head stiffly towards the three of them. Am I hearing things? The three of them nodded their heads in unison. It was absolutely a hallucination. Who was Ghost Doctor? He had such an explosive temper and had always been a loner. Even if the director personally came to invite him to guide the students in refining medicine, he would be kicked out directly. Yiqing Luo barged into the pill refining room and actually stayed behind. And she could report to the pill refining room every day. Clean up. Bei Ming Lu covered her face as she cried out, Qing Luo, let's exchange. I'm willing to clean up for Ghost Doctor every day. I'm willing. Are you sure after the exchange, Ghost Doctor won't kick you out? Yan Xiaoyi added a cold stab. Bei Ming Lu's cries became even more mournful as the gaze she gave Yiqing Luo was filled with envy and jealousy. The crowd recalled that when Yiqing Luo first entered the academy, she was also inexplicably attracted by Guiyu, and had been chasing after her, clamoring to take her in as his disciple. This young lady. Could it be that she had a special physique specially attracted to these crouching tigers, hidden dragons, eccentric people? She was taken in by Guiyu, and now she entered Ghost Doctor's eyes. No wonder when Yiqing Luo left the freshman training grounds, her face was still pale, as though her internal injury had worsened. But now, when she came out from Ghost Doctor's pill refining room, her expression was obviously not that ugly, and she looked much more energetic. Looked like Ghost Doctor should have stepped in to treat Yiqing Luo's internal injury. With Ghost Doctor taking action, they naturally need not worry. Under everyone's jealous and envious gazes, Yiqing Luo stayed in the reading room, reading the books Ghost Doctor had left for her. Whereas the other four accepted their fate and cleaned the library pavilion's cleanliness. Although the punishment was to avoid training, but if this library pavilion wasn't cleaned properly, Yiqing Qian's side would probably start gossiping again. This kind of busyness continued till 3 in the afternoon, when the four of them finally tidied up the entire second story's books. Yiqing Luo had also finished reading the 2 medicinal pills books. To prevent others from discovering them, Xiao Jin and the others tidied up the second floor and led the other 3 away. Before he left, he didn't forget to whisper, "Go to the class committee room later, the class monitor is waiting for you there." Long Yunzhan. Was he finally willing to return Mu Qiqi to her? She also wanted to find Long Yunzhan and ask him about the meaning of the riddle he played with Qiqi that day. Holding the punishment slip and handing it over to the administrator still couldn't believe that Yiqing Luo would be able to clean up such a huge library pavilion in such a short time. He specially went upstairs to check once to ascertain that the second story was indeed clean and tidy before he signed Yiqing Luo's punishment slip. Yiqing Luo went straight to the devil class and it was already time for training. The students lined up one by one and were jogging. Yiqing Luo walked directly towards the class committee room and along the way, it was completely silent. When she pushed open the door, there was only Long Yunzhan seated inside. "Where's Qiqi?" Yiqing Luo looked around but didn't see Qiqi. Long Yunzhan's azure blue eyes gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo as he lightly patted his sleeves. A palm-sized meatball rolled out from his sleeves. Chapter 372. These few days, in order to investigate my matter, Qiqi had expended quite a bit of energy and now it's in a deep sleep state. Long Yunzhan's clear voice was extremely light. "It doesn't want me to tell you, but as its owner, there are some things that you should know." Yiqing Luo stared at that tiny ball. It was so tiny and in her hands, it was so light that she couldn't feel any weight at all. She carefully sent Qiqi into the pet space. Qiqi, who had a life contract with her, could only receive the best self-care in the pet space. Raising her eyes again, Yiqing Luo's expression was calm without any ripples. What's going on? Until now, I'm not too sure what's going on and I can't believe everything that I know. But everything is real. Long Yunjian slowly shut his eyes, and when he opened them again, that pair of azure blue eyes had already been covered with a layer of gray. His look inexplicably made one's heart ache for him. That pair of azure blue eyes revealed an expression, as though he was an abandoned child, unable to find a place to return to. Even though she had many questions in her heart, Yiqing Luo didn't speak out immediately. She quietly waited for Long Yunjian to bring it up. But this wait took an entire incense worth of time. Long Yunjian's thick eyelashes trembled slightly, making that azure blue eyes look like ripples. After some time, he finally fixed his focus on Yiqing Luo's direction. You. His thin lips moved slightly, as though he wanted to say something. But his gaze stared at Yiqing Luo's face for some time before he immediately lowered his eyelids. Training has started, go and train. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Long Yunjian was obviously looking for her because he had something to tell her. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, he didn't say it out. Regarding the secret between Chi-Chi and him, regarding why Chi-Chi was so exhausted that it fell into a deep sleep state, regarding. There were too many things which Long Yunjian had yet to explain. Even if he was teasing her, it shouldn't be like this, right? Yiqing Luo abruptly stood up as both her hands propped on the table. Long Yunjian, you are attracted by Chi-Chi's sacred beast presence and can understand beast language. Tell me honestly, are you? She wasn't able to finish her question. Long Yunjian had already stood up, opened the door and walked out. Apparently, he didn't want to answer any of Yiqing Luo's questions. This Long Yunjian was really weird. Could it be that he called her to the class committee room just to return Mu Chi-Chi to her? His heart was full of questions, but he had to keep them bottled up in his heart. The feeling of not being able to swallow or spit them out was suffocating. Yiqing Luo was unable to take part in devil classes training. After she came out of the class committee room, she went to Baiming Lulu's pharmacy to rest. It was until night time when Yiqing Luo left the devil class. When he returned to the dormitory, the others were not there. It was rare that Dmo Xian was not waiting for her in the dormitory. Yiqing Luo simply didn't waste any more time. Lying on the bed, she extracted her spiritual sense and entered the Azure Dew bracelet. Inside the Azure Dew bracelet, Old Man Song would be able to manifest his spiritual body and help her heal her injuries. This time, although the Azure Dew bracelet protected Yiqing Luo's internal organs, but this body really couldn't withstand the pressure of the Earth Profound stage. If she didn't recuperate properly, even if her internal injuries were healed, her body quality would deteriorate. Last Luo, remember to swallow the medicinal pills that Ghost Doctor gave you daily. Come back to the Azure Dew bracelet at night and I will help you heal. I guarantee that by tomorrow or the day after, you will be alive and kicking. Old Man Song looked at the lass in front of him who had her eyes closed as she circulated her qi to heal her injuries. Towards Yiqing Luo being taken in by another sex alchemist, it would be a lie if Old Man Song said that he wasn't resigned. Chapter 373. A spiritual body, an artifact spirit which might disappear any time. How could it be compared to the living Ghost Doctor who had blood and flesh? Ghost Doctor was able to keep Yiqing Luo, so Old Man Song's heart indeed gave birth to some reluctance. But from the bottom of his heart, he felt happy and proud for her. Not good. Last Luo, quickly withdraw your spiritual consciousness. While he was recuperating, Old Man Song suddenly sensed something in the palm which was on Yiqing Luo's back which was infusing spiritual qi suddenly retracted. Almost at the same time, Yiqing Luo who was lying on the bed opened her eyes. Right in front of her was a sharp blade glint, directly chopping down towards her head. Damn it! Why did someone want to assassinate her again? Yiqing Luo couldn't help but roared in her heart as her body had already swiftly reacted. She had just turned sideways when she heard a ding sound. That blade had chopped onto the bed. Yiqing Luo only felt the entire bed swaying. She flipped herself up and swiftly retreated. She then saw that in her room, there were two burly and muscular men. Their entire bodies were wrapped up in black cloth, only revealing a pair of murderous eyes. And the window was already wide open, blowing in a gentle cold wind. The two killers had not expected Yiqing Luo to suddenly wake up. On seeing that their assassination had failed, two palm winds suddenly struck towards Yiqing Luo. Profound Qi. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed, as her squinted eyes were suffused with a sliver of chilliness. These two killers actually dared to use profound Qi in Heavenly Academy. Weren't they afraid that the profound Qi detection equipment around the academy would sense them? Seeing Yiqing Luo evading, the two burly men revealed a vicious look. Profound Qi broke out of their bodies, raised their long blades and charged forward. Every single blade, every single attack, was aimed at Yiqing Luo's vital points. They were totally ruthless, trying to take away Yiqing Luo's life. Damn it! Who had she offended today? Yiqing Luo panted heavily, acutely sensing that these two killers were absolutely not Heavenly Academy students, nor were they playing a prank. Judging from their combat prowess, they were definitely experienced killers who often committed murder, arson, and seduction. Although Yiqing Luo had suffered internal injuries, but her body's instinctive reaction was still there. With a few flashes, she quickly dodged the assassin's attack. With a cold expression, she flipped her fingers, and a feather fan appeared in her hand. If these people were really professional killers, he could use his profound Qi, but she couldn't. Moreover, she, who was suffering from internal injuries, could not summon the strength to release her profound energy. Right now, the only thing she could do was to stall the two of them until the academy sensed that there was an abnormal fluctuation of profound Qi in her dormitory and brought people over. Surrender obediently. Do you still want to wait for that kid who's protecting you in the dark to save you? The burly man laughed coldly in a hoarse voice. I'm afraid he's already dead. I'll fulfill your wish today. I'll let you two be a pair of wild mandarin ducks. As he spoke, the burly man's long saber slashed down. Protecting the kid in the dark. Wind. Foam was discovered by them. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly as she expressed some doubts towards the strong man's words. Although she had not seen Wind displaying his full strength, but Wind was able to stay by Dmo Xian's side and become one of his 5 great guardians, which was enough to prove his ability. In the Heavenly Academy, there was probably no one who was Wind's opponent. Otherwise Dmo Xian would not specially let Wind hide in the dark to protect Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with these killers. Her feet moved lightly and the feather fan in her hand drew a flirtatious arc in the dark night sky. She couldn't use her profound Qi. However, her own footwork and her teleportation secret technique were not weak at all. Chapter 374. After exchanging blows, these two killers became more and more serious. They didn't expect that a freshman would have such keen senses and reactions. It was as if he was born to fight. She didn't unleash any profound Qi. She only used that red feather fan in her hand, to attack them like a dagger. Every move, every style, was direct and decisive, without any hesitation. While avoiding their vital points, she was able to swiftly counterattack. This indeed made those killers who had belittled Yiqing Luo to look at her in a different light. Yiqing Luo was extremely glad that she had taken Ghost Doctor's medicinal pills, and in the Azure Dew bracelet, Old Man Song had injected his spiritual qi into her to nourish her body. So that now, her injuries weren't so painful that she wanted to die. The more serious the two killers became, the more vicious they became. Yiqing Luo's room had already been overturned by the powerful profound qi, as it was scattered messily on the ground. The entire wooden board of the bed was smashed onto the ground with a pitter-patter. Such a huge commotion, how could the surrounding students not discover it? Such a powerful profound qi fluctuation, how could the academy not detect it? But, she had been exchanging blows with these two killers for at least a quarter of an hour, and not even a shadow was seen. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, as her vision looked towards that opened window. A thought arose in her mind, and Yiqing Luo's feet moved, as she speedily scurried up the window. Her figure was petite, and with a slight bend, she had already flashed out of the dormitory. Following closely behind were the two killers, as they dashed towards the window at the same time. For the two of them with strong physiques, it would take some time for one of them to climb through that window, moreover the two of them were pouncing up at the same time. Instantly they were stuck on the window, unable to move. Seeing Yiqing Luo scurrying out of the window, her agile body scuttling nimbly along the roadside, their hearts got more anxious, as their struggles became even more ferocious. Outside Yiqing Luo's window was the female dormitory's rear floor. Usually there would be at least 3 to 5 people walking around, but at this moment, as far as the eye could see, there wasn't a single figure in sight. As expected, her dormitory was set up with an enchantment. Just like every time Dmo Xian returned to her room, he would set up an enchantment beforehand. Once one was within the enchantment, one would be completely cut off from the outside world. No matter what they did in the enchantment, such as releasing profound qi, the outside world would not be able to sense it. This also meant that these two assassins had long planned to assassinate her. No response from the heavens and earth. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she swept a glance at the two killers who were still stuck at the window, gave a cold laugh and retracted her vision. The most important thing now was to find the person who set up the barrier and break it. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes scanned the surroundings sharply. The range of this barrier should be the room she lived in. In other words, it was very likely that the person who released the barrier was hiding nearby. From all directions, another two figures suddenly appeared, brandishing the long swords in their hands as they dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That momentum and speed were extremely fast. Compared to the two assassins from before, they paled in comparison. The two assassins came at him menacingly, their long sabers slashing down with unerring accuracy. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and quickly retreated a few steps back. Soon after, the feather fan in her hand opened and closed, leaving behind dazzling afterimages. It seemed like a flashy move, but every strike and every opening and closing were aimed at the assassin's vitals. Chapter 375. Who on earth sent these killers over? When she saw the two killers trying to assassinate her, Yiqing Luo thought that her actions in the academy had made some students unhappy, so she spent some money to hire these killers. Just like Shengwan Liuli previously. But she jumped out of the window and was sealed in the array barrier. There were two more powerful killers lying in ambush outside, and she didn't know how many more people were hidden in the surroundings. This kind of behavior was absolutely not what a student would do. But Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled the conversation that she had heard in the library pavilion in the morning. Could it be they had sent people over? She was punished by the instructors to clean up the second story of the library pavilion, and this matter would definitely spread like wildfire. To be able to freely enter and exit the Heavenly Academy, those two people were absolutely the higher management figures in the academy. Naturally, the news of her being in the library pavilion's second story would also spread to their ears. The secret that those people were talking about was obviously a huge plan. Because of this, no matter if Yiqing Luo had heard the conversation or not, as long as she appeared in the library pavilion's second story at that time, she would die. If it was really the killers sent by those two people. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to think any further. Bam! The ground cracked open as pieces of gravel flew in all directions. Once again, the two assassins missed. The two assassins who had been stuck on the window finally got over and immediately followed up. Enemies, 4 professional killers. On their side, a frail willow lady who had yet to recover from her internal injury and was unable to circulate her profound chi. This comparison, to be able to turn the tables, that would really be seeing a ghost. Not far from the female dormitory, on top of a tall building, a man dressed in a purple robe stood with his hands behind his back. His purple robe fluttered, as though he had the bearing of a deity. Just by standing there, his entire body gave off an extremely majestic pressure. That pair of narrow peach blossom eyes were pitch black as it stared at Yiqing Luo's dormitory without blinking. Amidst the flowing light was a bundle of expression which couldn't be seen through. A black figure swiftly flashed and in a blink of an eye, knelt down in front of the man. "Overlord, I'm useless and didn't manage to protect Miss Yi properly." Ah Feng lowered his head expressionlessly. If those people hadn't used the tactic of luring the tiger away from the mountain and tricked him into leaving first, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to set up the barrier. In Dmo Xian's pitch-black pupils, sometimes a storm was blowing, sometimes it was as if it was dyed with ink, so calm that it made one flustered. Ah Feng couldn't bear the pressure and bent down a little more. "Di Zun, I'm going to break the barrier." With that, the young man immediately stood up, straightened his back, gripped his sword tightly, and turned to leave. "There's no need." Dmo Xian replied indifferently, unable to tell whether he was happy or angry. His vision congealed in the direction of Yiqing Luo's dormitory. Under his sleeves, his slender fingers clenched into a fist. He was suppressing his urge to raise the Heavenly Academy to the ground. He wanted to rush into the barrier and hold his woman in his arms so that she would not take any more risks. But, after a long time, Dmo Xian retracted his gaze. "It's coming." Ah Feng stopped in his tracks and turned around stiffly. Who was it referring to? Ah Feng followed Dmo Xian's gaze, and when his vision fell onto a figure, his usually expressionless mouth turned into an O shape. "Overlord, this." Dmo Xian muttered to himself for a moment and seemed to have thought of something as his eyes were covered with a layer of faint warmth, which made the lines of his entire face become much gentler. Chapter 376. The 4 killers' attacks were extremely ferocious. As though they didn't want to give Yiqing Luo any chance to complicate matters, this time round, the 4 of them attacked in unison. The long saber swept out streaks of sharp and dazzling brilliance. The strong airflow lifted up everything on the ground as it danced in midair. Those streaks of strong chi made Yiqing Luo feel as though her body was floating, as though she was about to be swept up by this gale. There was no way he could hide from it. Yiqing Luo had tried to circulate the profound chi in her profound jade heart several times, but after taking the medicinal pill that Ghost Doctor gave her, her profound jade heart had been nourished by the medicinal effects, forming a nurturing mode. Forcefully circulating it would only cause a backlash from her profound jade heart. Now, what should she do? The 4 killers were already impatient, as bursts of profound chi broke out from their bodies. That long saber formed an overbearing array, trapping Yiqing Luo within it. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly, as her footwork stabilized, as she speedily took in a deep breath. Her feet moved like the wind, as that set of strange footwork changed rapidly. In a blink of an eye, the little girl in the array had disappeared without a trace. "I don't believe that you, this lass, can resist. To what extent?" A glint shot out from the killer's eyes. The few of them became even more serious. Yiqing Luo's speed and acuity had exceeded their expectations. She obviously didn't utilize any profound chi, but she was able to see through their attacks in a blink of an eye, and make the clearest evasive or counterattack. This kind of lass, if she was properly nurtured, in future, she would definitely become a fearsome figure. But alas! This lass had offended someone whom she shouldn't have offended. The future strong exponent was going to die under their sabers today. No matter how fast her speed was, so what? She was ultimately a young lass who couldn't utilize her profound chi. Her stamina would eventually be depleted. Lass, if you listen to us obediently, we can still let you die a quick death. The killer condensed profound chi, as he followed the tip of the saber, as he slashed downwards. Yiqing Luo spat, as she did a somersault in midair, as she raised her leg and gave a horizontal kick. That killer who raised his saber had originally released his profound jade heart, circulating his profound chi, but before his saber could slash downwards, his chest suddenly felt an intense pain. His profound chi was in a mess, as the long saber left his hand. He was sent flying backward. The other three killers totally didn't see when Yiqing Luo made her move. At this moment, a sense of vigilance surged in his heart. After Yiqing Luo sent that killer flying, she didn't stop. Her calculations were extremely accurate. When that assassin was circulating his profound chi would definitely be in a mess after being kicked by her. The assassin would not be able to get up in a short period of time. There were 3 left. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she gripped the feather fan in her hands tightly. While the 3 of them were still in a daze, she flipped the feather fan on her fingertips, like a bewitching red light, darted out. When those 3 killers saw that one of them was destroyed, they were already on guard against Yiqing Luo. The minute Yiqing Luo moved, the 3 of them speedily followed suit. They were all experienced assassins and had done a lot of such shady business. He quickly adjusted his state. Their common goal was to block Yiqing Luo's speed and take her down in one fell swoop. The trio's eyes were vicious, and under their coordination, they trapped Yiqing Luo completely. One of them locked onto Yiqing Luo's movements, one attacked her vital points, and the last person surrounded Yiqing Luo's movements. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. They were indeed trained professional killers. They had thought of a way to restrain her so quickly. Chapter 377. What the? This move was just too sinister. Yiqing Luo's eyes were pierced so much that she shut her eyes. But the minute she shut her eyes, Yiqing Luo's heart cried out in alarm. Indeed, at the same time when she shut her eyes, the surrounding profound chi became even more violent as it shot out an intense murderous intent. Yiqing Luo's heart turned cold as she wanted to open her eyes, but that ray shot directly towards her and it was simply too glaring. She could only wave the feather fan in her hand and rely on her sensitive ears and perceptive power to avoid the incoming long knife. Suddenly, a miserable shriek was heard beside her ear. Following that, a burst of powerful energy which could destroy the heaven and earth instantly eroded the entire enchantment barrier. Who was it this time? Yiqing Luo's heart trembled as she endured the piercing pain in her eyes and opened her eyes. When she saw the scene in front of her, Yiqing Luo was completely stunned. A long dragon was spiraling in front of her eyes. That's right. It was a dragon. It was so huge that one could only land on it after it coiled up into several circles. And right now, she was spiraling in the middle of this dragon. The blue dragon's scales were like iron armor as it gave off a clear glow. Having lived for 2 lifetimes, what kind of storm had Yiqing Luo not seen before? But the current Yiqing Luo was stunned. A dragon, a living dragon, was right in front of her eyes. That huge dragon head fiercely knocked onto those few killers. It was apparently the first time for those killers to see a living creature like a dragon as they were sent flying by that dragon head. Only, the dragon's strength was obviously different from Yiqing Luo's. Yiqing Luo's kick sent them flying would at most cause them to faint for a period of time. But this dragon's collision sent those killers flying one by one as they crashed heavily onto the wall and instantly turned into a meat patty. Their internal organs had all seeped out and completely turned into a pile of minced meat. After that blue dragon finished dealing with the remaining 3 killers, it raised its head and let out a dragon's roar. That dragon roar caused the pitch-black sky to suddenly explode, accompanied by a huge roar of thunder and lightning. Bolts of lightning seemed to split open a hole in the horizon. And that blue dragon, which was originally spiraling around Yiqing Luo, speedily dashed into the clouds. The dragon's body flipped as it howled. Within a radius of thousands of miles from the Heavenly Academy, all the magical beasts and mirage beasts responded to the dragon's roar. That blue huge dragon circled several rounds in the sky, and its huge dragon head stared straight at Yiqing Luo. That pair of azure blue watery eyes made Yiqing Luo dazzlingly stunned once again. Blue eyes. That gaze. How could Yiqing Luo not recognize it? The giant blue dragon stared at her for a few seconds. With a flick of its tail, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. The turbulent sky once again returned to its previous tranquility. Let's go take a look. What happened in the girls' dormitory? Following the elder's stern voice, numerous footsteps could be heard. Yiqing Luo knew that the enchantment had been dispelled. Obviously, the people from the academy had noticed the commotion in the dormitory. That giant blue dragon just now, it was too eye-catching. Yiqing Luo didn't even think as she immediately shut her eyes and fell onto the ground. The sound of orderly footsteps rang in his ears, and he could vaguely hear the voices of the students discussing. What was that just now? The sun is so bright, why would there suddenly be thunder and lightning? Didn't you see it? I seem to have heard a dragon's roar. Dragon's roar. Dragon's roar. Is there something wrong with your brain? Dragon, to anyone in the Nirvana realm, was a supreme existence. Even the number 1 strong DMO Xian only had a 9-tailed fox sacred beast. Everyone had heard of legends regarding dragons in books, but had never seen a real dragon, not to mention hearing a dragon's roar. What dragon's roar? Chapter 378. Yun Xiang led a team of guards and rushed over. Only to see the entire female dormitory's backyard. The ground had already cracked. Especially Yiqing Luo's dormitory, more than half of it was destroyed. There were 3 corpses lying on the ground which had turned into meat patties. At the corner of the other end, there was another corpse which could more or less be seen clearly. Looking at the outfit, it was obviously a killer without a doubt. Yun Xiang's expression congealed as he sternly ordered the guards to carry these corpses away. He was feeling vexed. Usually there weren't so many things happening in the academy. On the contrary, ever since Yun Duan came back, there were so many things which he had no way to settle. If this were to spread to Yun Duan's ears, he would definitely blame him for not knowing how to manage the academy and revoke his position as an elder. That would be terrible. Yun Xiang's heart was burning with anxiety, his sinister eyes sweeping the surroundings. Suddenly he saw Yiqing Luo lying on the ground and the hostility in his eyes intensified. It was this new student again. Yun Xiang's eyes widened as he couldn't wait to tear Yiqing Luo into pieces. Every single time, as long as he was related to this new student, nothing good would come out of it. From the beginning of the class allocation, he was humiliated by the 2 instructors in public. Following that, Lu Shuayu's matter caused him to lose Yun Duan's trust. Then to the heavenly training forest, according to Yiqing Qian, that intruder was most likely Yiqing Luo. And now, everything seemed to be related to Yiqing Luo. Yun Xiang's eyes shot out a strong murderous intent. Yiqing Luo, who was pretending to be unconscious, naturally felt this murderous intent as her heart trembled slightly. Her sharp ears heard Yun Xiang's footsteps, and Yiqing Luo was thinking if she should pretend to be awake. She heard a student saying, "Elder Yun Xiang, the director sent a message to bring student Yi to the director's office for questioning." The footsteps stopped abruptly. The approaching murderous intent gradually subsided. Following that, Yiqing Luo's collar was lifted and someone took a wooden frame and carried her to the director's office. Director's office. Yiqing Luo laid quietly on the ground, maintaining the frequency of her breathing. Yun Xiang also followed over with an extremely ugly expression. Director, this new student is simply a troublemaker. Ever since she came to the academy, things have been happening one after another. For a long time, he did not hear the dean's response. The entire dean's office fell into a strange silence. After saying that, Yun Xiang froze on the spot, not daring to speak again. Then, the sound of the headmaster lightly knocking on the table broke the silence. How are the freshmen? This deep and resounding voice was filled with a dignified dignity without being angry. He seemed to be concerned about his new body. But when this voice entered Yiqing Luo's ears, it made her entire body turn icy cold. This voice, wasn't that the bootlicking voice she had heard on the second floor of the library pavilion? She knew it. That voice sounded so familiar. She had definitely heard it before. Momentarily, Yiqing Luo didn't even think of the director at all. But upon hearing the director's voice, Yiqing Luo was almost certain that the person who was discussing plans with the self-proclaimed guardian in the library pavilion in the morning was the director. She was also very sure that the reason why these assassins came to find her today was definitely because of this dean. The barrier had just been broken, and even Elder Yun Xiang was present, but he could not see that she was related to this chaos. Whereas the director, who had always been indifferent to the outside world, could actually send a student to summon her to the director's office at the first instance to question her. No wonder. Heavenly Academy, which was hailed as the best academy, had several experienced killers infiltrated in. Chapter 379. She fainted, she won't die. Yun Xiang stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Director responded calmly. Yiqing Luo could feel that director's gaze was fixed on her face. Sir Director, she's merely a freshman in devil class. No matter what questions you ask her, she might not be able to answer. Yun Xiang's white brows creased as he mentioned Yiqing Luo with ridicule. Seeing the director staring at Yiqing Luo without letting go, Yun Xiang was really afraid that this director of the academy would be captured by Yiqing Luo. Sir Director, leave the killer's matter to me. I will definitely get to the bottom of this matter. Yun Xiang patted his chest to show his loyalty. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but snigger. This matter was done by the director, and if he really got to the bottom of it, Yun Xiang might not have the life to tell the truth. Director's knocking sound stopped and he said, "You can leave first. We must get to the bottom of this matter and give an explanation to the students." Yun Xiang nodded his head in agreement. He stood up and was about to leave when he turned his head to look at the unconscious Yiqing Luo, this freshman. Director's eyelids twitched as he lightly swept a glance at Yun Xiang. That question, which he had yet to ask, was held back. When Yun Xiang's feet stepped out of the director's room, Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Staying in the same room as the director, she would definitely be in trouble. With Yun Xiang around, it would be different. After all, Yun Xiang was the academy's elder. Even if the director wanted to silence her, he had to consider Yun Xiang's presence. From the way Yun Xiang ridiculed him earlier, he knew that the headmaster did not treat Yun Xiang as one of his own. He would definitely not reveal his secret plans to the public. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes as she screamed, "Don't come over. Don't come over." The sudden scream rang in the silent and spacious director's room. There was even a burst of echo which made it seem extremely strange. Yun Xiang stopped in his tracks as his brows creased tightly as he stared at Yiqing Luo. He saw the young lady on the wooden frame suddenly sitting up straight as her little face was pale and filled with fear. After she opened her eyes, she saw a foreign environment. That pair of lively eyes were dazed and frightened. What is this place? Yiqing Luo seemed to have calmed down a little as her vision slowly fixed onto the director. The dean was dressed in a greenish-gray robe. He had a black and white beard, and his sideburns were grizzled. He was quite handsome, and his eyebrows were knitted together, exuding a sense of majesty. Principal. Yiqing Luo immediately stood up from the wooden frame, her face carrying a trace of lingering fear. Director, the academy has been infiltrated by killers. So many assassins. Impudent. Yunxiang saw Yiqing Luo pouncing directly towards the director, and her pair of hands even grabbed the director's wrist, as he immediately cried out harshly. He turned around and returned to the director's office as he stretched out his hand to pull Yiqing Luo. You know those are killers. Director shot a cold glance at Yunxiang and immediately turned his head, looking at Yiqing Luo. He did not show the slightest bit of anger towards her grabbing his arm. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she bit her lower lip. They chased after me the moment they came, dressed in black and masked. What else can they be if they aren't killers? I escaped from the dormitory, only to find that there was no one outside. Those killers even chased after me. Director narrowed his eyes. Do you know why the killers chased after you? Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she released the director's arm. I'm upright, and even if I offended anyone, it's not to the extent of specially hiring killers to assassinate me. Chapter 380. Director's body suddenly stiffened as his back, which was originally leaning on the chair, also straightened up a little. That pair of emotionless eyes which concealed a murderous intent stared at Yiqing Luo, as though waiting for her to continue her sentence. Yiqing Luo laughed silently in her heart. To think that he had been the director for so long, yet he couldn't keep his cool at all. Yiqing Luo's voice paused as she suddenly clapped her hands and her tone became filled with righteous indignation. Early this morning, that eldest sister of mine found trouble with me for no reason and even crushed the mud sculpture which I had made yesterday. I didn't expect her hand to be covered in mud instead. That eldest sister of mine usually cares about her reputation, and that mud in her hand looks like a ball of hot shit. She blamed me for making her lose her reputation, so she sent someone to assassinate me. Director's brows twitched slightly, as though he had not expected Yiqing Luo to say such a thing. He was not the least bit interested in the petty things these students did in secret. But looking at this young lady, her face was filled with anger and her teeth clenched. It didn't seem like she was lying. Ever since he became the director, no one could escape from his probing. Not to mention this 15-year-old freshman. Earlier when their eyes met, director didn't read any lies from Yiqing Luo's eyes. Nonsense. Yunxiang, who was standing by the side, couldn't help but opened his mouth. Student Qing Qian is kind-hearted, it's just a hand of mud. Is there a need to hire a killer? Moreover, Heavenly Academy's security is tight. Just based on student Qing Qian, how could she let a killer enter the academy? He naturally understood the reason why Yiqing Qian went to the training ground to look for Yiqing Luo. But yesterday's intruder had not been found, and Yunxiang didn't want to expose this matter to the director. That's right. Yiqing Luo scratched her head as though she had scolded the wrong person with a guilty conscience. Then who could it be? Don't tell me those killers are our academy's students. I've been in the academy for so many years and I've never seen any killer students. Yunxiang replied without thinking. From what I see, this is simply the problem with your own style. It's too bad. One old and one young, one after the other, made the director feel gloomy. He banged the table fiercely and his dignified face instantly became more dignified. What's with all this noise? Student Yi, if you don't have any evidence, don't spout nonsense. And you, Elder Yunxiang, as the second in command of the Elders Division, you represent the entire Elders Division. How can you argue with a new student? Yunxiang was silent, his face ashen as he lowered his head. Yiqing Luo gave a cold harumph as her face no longer had that blank and panicky look when she first entered the director's office. She patted her clothes and looked at Yunxiang coldly. Student Yi, I invited you to the dean's office today because I have a few questions for you. Director narrowed his eyes as his eagle eyes stared sharply at Yiqing Luo, devil class. Student Ye's ability shouldn't be considered especially outstanding. Yiqing Luo nodded slightly. As of now, her ability was indeed not particularly outstanding. Then how did you escape the assassin's pursuit? How could he escape from the dormitory? If there was no one outside the dormitory, why were you safe and sound while those assassins all died a violent death? As expected of the dean, he asked one question after another, getting to the crux of the matter. Yiqing Luo sneered in her heart. Facing a person like the headmaster, she did not know his background, nor did she know how strong he was. Moreover, Heavenly Academy was the headmaster's turf. She naturally wouldn't start a fight with the headmaster at this critical juncture. She absolutely wouldn't gain any advantage. Right now, if she wanted to survive in Heavenly Academy, the only way was to act. Chapter 381. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly as she turned her head to look at Yunxiang. Don't tell me. Wasn't it Elder Yunxiang who sensed the fluctuation in the dormitory and specially rushed over to save me? As she spoke, she even blinked her eyes innocently, as if she had done something wrong. Yunxiang spat out a few words in his heart. Specially rushed over to save her. Those killers wanted to kill her and he didn't specially send a knife over. It was already good enough that he didn't stab her in the back. And still saved her. However, Yiqing Luo totally didn't understand the despise in Yunxiang's eyes as her pink lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Those two killers were big and burly. I ran out from the window and they were all stuck on the window, so I was able to escape. Saying that, her voice started to droop as she pursed her lips unhappily. I don't know why, but after I came out, there wasn't a single shadow on the usual crowded streets. Director muttered to himself for a moment, as though he was trying to discern whether Yiqing Luo's words were credible or not. After some time, Director frowned. After that, there was no after that. I escaped from the dormitory and wanted to call for help from the students, but the minute I got out, two killers charged towards me. I couldn't beat them. After that. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and placed it on her forehead as her brows creased tightly. She painfully frowned. After that. I can't recall anything. I only know that when I woke up, I was already here. Didn't you see the abnormality in the sky? Yunxiang suspiciously creased his white brows as he stared at Yiqing Luo. Earlier he was attracted by the strange lightning and thunder above the female dormitory's roof. Following that, the elder quarters sensed a strange and powerful force descending upon Heavenly Academy. Using the Heavenly Academy's profound chi to sense things, it was totally unable to sense anything. Until the Academy's sky exploded with a deafening beast roar. Following that, the magical beasts that were trapped in the training forest and those tamed magical beasts started to howl one after another. This formation seemed as though they were respecting and worshipping something. Yunxiang immediately followed that aura and rushed over. But he only had time to see the ground full of ruins and those four corpses. He thought that Yiqing Luo, this lass who wasn't dead, would know what had happened. Yiqing Luo was at a loss. What abnormality? You. Yunxiang frowned, seeing Yiqing Luo not speaking, didn't know how to continue asking. If Yiqing Luo, the person involved, didn't know what had happened, then who else would know? Who was that person with such great power? Why would he kill the killer who tried to assassinate Yiqing Luo? Why would he kill the killers who tried to assassinate Yiqing Luo? This thought caused Yunxiang to be shocked. In his mind, he inexplicably recalled the day when Yiqing Luo first entered the Heavenly Academy, the Overlord's extravagant display of support, and intimately admitted his master-disciple relationship with her. He inexplicably recalled that Yunduan had instructed him to take a detour if he saw Yiqing Luo. There was still that Master Zhu behind her, Yunxiang's face instantly turned pale. Looks like student Yi fainted from the shock. The dean did not continue to pursue the matter. He placated Yi Zichen symbolically before continuing, "Student Yi, think carefully. Who exactly have you offended recently?" "I should have offended quite a number of people. I would be the first to suspect Elder Yunxiang." Yiqing Luo glanced coldly at Yunxiang. Yunxiang's face turned black as he hardened his neck and berated, "Nonsense." Chapter 382. Yiqing Luo nodded her head in a serious manner. "That's right, if Elder Yunxiang wanted to kill me, he would kill me personally." Yunxiang's face turned even darker, but this time round, he had learned his lesson and didn't retort. Yiqing Luo then shifted her vision onto the director as she frowned. "The academy is filled with students, even if they don't like me, but surely they wouldn't take such a huge risk to hire a killer to assassinate me, right?" Pausing, Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she asked herself uncertainly, "Could it be because I was punished to go to the library pavilion's second story this morning?" Director's brows rose silently as he shot a glance towards Elder Yunxiang. His eyes flashed past a trace of indistinct murderous intent. Yiqing Luo pretended not to see it as she muttered to herself, "I just accidentally touched his medicinal herbs and barged into his pill refining room. Is there a need to kill me?" Medicinal herbs. Pill refining room. Director caught the crux of the matter. "What do you mean?" Yiqing Luo's face turned green. "I've never been to the library pavilion's second story before. Who knows that there's a strange old man's pill refining room in the library pavilion?" "You entered the pill refining room." Director's expression congealed slightly as that pair of eagle eyes was like a wrist, tightly clutching onto Yiqing Luo's neck. Yiqing Luo calmly met Director's eyes. "I was just helping him to tidy up the medicinal herbs on the table and stepped on something, so I fell into the place where he specializes in refining pills and got caught red-handed." Director squinted his eyes, as though he was scrutinizing Yiqing Luo's words. "That is the Academy's #1 pill sect alchemist's pill refining room. His title is Ghost Doctor." Director's hand, once again placed on the study table. Although he looked old, but that pair of hands under his sleeves didn't look rough at all. His index finger was slightly bent as he lightly knocked on the table, forming an unprecedented sense of oppression. The pounding sounds were like the sounds of someone demanding their lives. Yiqing Luo was suddenly enlightened. Pill sect alchemist. No wonder his temper is so weird, even locking me and the medicinal cauldron together, making me memorize some medicinal pill books. Director's knocking sound suddenly stopped. "You've been locked in the pill refining secret room by Ghost Doctor." The medicine refining room on the second floor was specially built by him to keep the Ghost Doctor here. He also knew about the secret room used to refine medicine. If Yiqing Luo was locked in that secret room. Yiqing Luo nodded. "He kept me locked up until I finished reciting the medicinal pill books before he let me out, and even asked me to report to the pill refining room tomorrow." Half-truths and half-lies were more trustworthy. From Baiming Lulu, Yiqing Luo found out about Ghost Doctor's status in the academy. He should be similar to Guiyu, a highly respected member of the academy. First, she pretended not to know anything and said that she had been locked in the secret room. This meant that she could not have eavesdropped on the conversation between the principal and the protector, thus dispelling the principal's suspicion of her. Then, he revealed that the Ghost Doctor had thoughts of taking her in as his disciple. Moreover, when mentioning the Ghost Doctor, the director would also consider Guiyu. Because of her, old man Guiyu did not hesitate to teach in the devil class. She must have left a deep impression on the headmaster. Even if the dean was someone who would rather kill wrongly than let a single person go. Under the double hints of the secret room and the Ghost Doctor, he would temporarily spare her life. Oh. The headmaster raised his brows, revealing a trace of a smile. The Ghost Doctor has always had a bad temper. All the students who came to study were chased out of the medicine refining room by him. To think that student Yi would actually catch the eye of the Ghost Doctor. Chapter 383. Ha ha ha. Director laughed as he shook his head. In this academy, anyone can do it except for Ghost Doctor. He's someone who is afraid of trouble, and if he really wants to kill you, the minute he makes a move, you will have no way out. Hearing Director's laughter, Yiqing Luo knew that her plan had succeeded. Director's fingers, which were placed on the table, retracted. Suspecting this and that, if there's no concrete evidence, then don't make wild guesses. Yun Xiang endured for some time, but on hearing Yiqing Luo suspecting Ghost Doctor for no reason, he couldn't help but ridiculed her. Of all people to be assassinated, it just had to be this most troublesome new student. The minute Yun Xiang opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo sneered, "I'm studying in the academy, so the academy should be responsible for my safety." Just like what Elder Yun Xiang said, Heavenly Academy's security is strict, but a killer has been released into the academy. If it's me today, then who will it be tomorrow? I represent the entire academy's students to request a sentence from Director. Will we still be able to study peacefully in the future? As she said that, her hands were propped on the wooden table as her pair of charming eyes flashed with a cold glint. When it was time to be soft, when it was time to be hard, she wasn't careless at all. This argument based on reason made the Director's gaze towards Yiqing Luo to be filled with a sense of scrutiny. He suddenly understood why his lord requested him to pay more attention to this new student. This chess piece was a double-edged sword. If it was used properly, it would be an aid to his lord's success. But if it wasn't used properly, there was a possibility that it would be the biggest obstacle. Presumptuous. Yiqing Luo, do you know who you're talking to? This is the attitude you should have when talking to Director. Yun Xiang walked up directly and pressed Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Yiqing Luo didn't give him any face as she slapped him. "I'm just thinking of my own safety. After all, we're not as high profound class and not as good as the students in Class of Gods, we can still protect ourselves. Today I'm lucky and lucky enough, but what about next time?" Yun Xiang didn't expect Yiqing Luo to not give him any face in front of the Director. "Pa" sound was heard, and coincidentally, it landed on the back of his hand. Yun Xiang was instantly infuriated as he stomped his feet in anger. "You have no respect for your elders. I'll record this as a demerit." All right. The dean stood up and lightly patted Yun Xiang's shoulder. "Student Yun Xiang has suffered quite a fright today. Yun Xiang, as an elder, why are you getting angry at a student?" Yun Xiang gritted his teeth, his white beard fluttering in the wind from his nostrils. The Director sighed helplessly and looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Student Yi met with an assassination in the academy, and the academy will definitely take responsibility for this matter and will definitely give Student Yi a satisfactory answer. As the saying goes, one who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune afterwards. Student Yi, go back and rest early. If you think of anything, you can come to the dean's office to find me." Yiqing Luo couldn't wait to leave the Director's office, so naturally she wouldn't put on airs. Walking out of the Director's office and breathing in the fresh air, Yiqing Luo felt as though she was revived. Today was really too dangerous. Again and again, he had nearly lost his life. She slowly curled up her fingers. No. Right now, she was really too weak. Rather than believing in one's fate and luck, it was better to rely on one's own strength. If she was a little stronger, then when she met the Ghost Doctor or the assassins, she wouldn't be at a loss. This kind of life with the cheat was only temporary. What if that time, this cheat couldn't be activated? Chapter 384. After leaving the Director's office, Yiqing Luo called out to Wind in the dark, but there was no response. She wondered if Wind had been obstructed by those killers or had gone to report to Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo believed in Wind's ability, so she wasn't too worried. Her next target was to rush to Devil Class. That blue huge dragon flew high up in the sky, and when it lowered its head to look at her, that pair of blue eyes kept replaying in her mind. Eyes. Extremely beautiful azure blue eyes. Other than Long Yunjian, there was no one else. She had always had this guess in her heart. But Yiqing Luo had not expected that this guess would become true. She only wanted to find Long Yunjian and ask him clearly what was going on. But when she rushed to Devil class and went to the class committee room, she didn't see Long Yunjian anywhere. She pulled Xiao Jin to ask, but Xiao Jin shook his head, indicating that his class monitor had always been elusive. Her heart was filled with questions, but she couldn't get any answers. Howl howl. Suddenly, a soft howl rang beside her ear. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and saw Chi-Chi, who had been in a deep sleep, had woken up and was scurrying on her shoulder. A tiny one, so light that it didn't have any weight at all. You know where Long Yunjian is? Yiqing Luo understood what Chi-Chi meant. Chi-Chi moaned softly and jumped down from Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Not knowing if it was her misconception, Chi-Chi's action seemed to be much more strenuous than usual. This thought had just flashed past her mind. Chi-Chi had already jumped to the front and realized that Yiqing Luo didn't follow up as it turned its head and cried out a few times. Yiqing Luo looked at Chi-Chi's lively look as she shook her head and followed up. It should be a misconception. Chi-Chi was the number one among the 4 ancient sacred beasts. Even if it contracted with her and its ability was suppressed, but its prestige as a sacred beast still existed. Even if it went out alone, it would absolutely not be at a disadvantage. Moreover, after Chi-Chi contracted with her, the pet space was equivalent to Chi-Chi's nutrient fluid. It had slept in the pet space for so long, and the energy which needed to be replenished should have been replenished. Following Chi-Chi, they stopped at the side of the path towards the academy. This was the only path in the Devil class's courtyard that could be used. It was the road that connected the training field and the school. Both sides were covered in thick haystacks that were taller than a person. During the period when Yiqing Luo was in Devil class, she hadn't noticed the peculiarity of this small path. Pausing for a while, just as Yiqing Luo was about to ask Chi-Chi why it stopped, Chi-Chi suddenly made a turn and burrowed into the dense haystack. The haystack rustled, and a small head popped out. Roar! Its small white head was extremely adorable in the haystack. Yiqing Luo was shocked. She had been in the academy for such a long time and she hadn't had the time to explore the Devil class's terrain. He didn't expect that the path leading to the academy would have hidden secrets. She pushed aside the haystack and saw a hole. The hole wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. She could enter it by bending down. Chi-Chi was already waiting for her at the entrance of the cave. Yiqing Luo was puzzled as she bent down and entered the cave. The dense grass once again covered the entrance of the cave. The cave was not dark. Every 100 steps or so, there would be a luminous pearl embedded on the rock wall to illuminate. After entering the cave, she bent down and walked 100 steps deeper. The cave gradually became spacious. At least it was enough for 2 of her to stand up and walk side by side. Until Yiqing Luo walked to the deep end of the cave. When she saw the environment in front of her, her pupils suddenly widened as her face was filled with astonishment. Chapter 385. Inside this cave, there were actually 2 mountains. Between the mountains was a waterfall, wave after wave of water, tumbling downwards. Under the waterfall, there was a huge pool of water. By the shore, there was a wooden house. Where on earth was this place? They actually built such a place under the ground of Devil class. How much effort did they spend? This mountain, this waterfall, where did it come from? Chi-Chi brought her all the way to the side of the wooden house before it stopped. He's inside. Chi-Chi moaned softly, scuttled onto Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder and licked her cheek. In a blink of an eye, the little body returned to the pet space, entering deep sleep. Yi-Ching Luo frowned, somehow feeling that Chi-Chi seemed to be hiding something from her. Why did it feel? As compared to when she first contracted it, it seemed to be even more drowsy. Sensing that the two war pets were in deep sleep in the pet space, Yi-Ching Luo didn't want to disturb them. Let's first clarify Long Yunjan's matters first. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath, raised her hand and pushed open the wooden door. With a creak, the door opened. The wooden house wasn't big, the furnishings were extremely simple. A wooden table, 2 chairs, plus a bookshelf and a wooden bed in the corner, there was nothing else. Simple. Just like Long Yunjan's simplicity. Yi-Ching Luo's vision was fixed on that wooden bed. Long Yunjan's sleeping position was very proper, lying quietly on the bed, not moving at all. Yi-Ching Luo walked to the bedside and sat down, looking at this handsome face, pale without any color of blood. His delicate brows were slightly knitted, as though there was an unresolvable melancholy. He closed his eyes. Without that pair of indifferent eyes, this face still looked extremely cold. As though the coldness was emitted from his bones, always announcing the words, "Strangers do not come near." Yi-Ching Luo stretched out her hand to touch his forehead. The temperature was very normal. Yi-Ching Luo touched his wrist and felt his pulse. This action made Yi-Ching Luo stunned. Long Yunjan's pulse was extremely messy. Don't think that there were no ripples on his face, but in actual fact, the profound qi in his body was already running amok. Judging from the pulse, there was another strange force that was constantly devouring the profound qi that was moving. To put it bluntly, in Long Yunjan's body, there were 2 energies, swallowing each other. In this way, the main body which bore the 2 energies, would become the battlefield of the 2 energies, and the main body would suffer corresponding pain. No wonder Long Yunjan fell into a coma, unable to wake up. No wonder Long Yunjan fell into a coma, unable to wake up. The minute she thought of Long Yunjan transforming into a dragon and appearing in front of her in time, Yi-Ching Luo was unable to leave him alone. She held Long Yunlong's hand, and placed it on her palm. That wide, slender and long hand, as compared to Yi-Ching Luo's hand, was much bigger. Yi-Ching Luo's palms were facing each other, which made Yi-Ching Luo's hand look even more delicate. Yi-Ching Luo shut her eyes and slowly revolved her profound jade heart, transferring her own profound qi into Long Yunjan's body. She did not dare, she tried. Normally speaking, if one was the slightest bit careless with this method of pouring profound energy into one's body, then one would be rejected by the profounders. Just like in Long Yunjan's body, if Long Yunjan was unable to accept Yi-Ching Luo's profound qi, then the profound qi in Long Yunjan's body would treat the profound qi as an intruder. If it was light, it would quickly devour the invading Xian qi. In the worst case, it would be like Long Yunjan's current situation, where the 2 forces would devour each other, neither willing to admit defeat. Chapter 386. Unexpectedly, Long Yunjan did not reject the profound qi that she poured in at all. When Yi-Ching Luo's profound qi circulated one round around Long Yunjan's body, it slowly merged with his profound qi. Yi-Ching Luo was delighted, and at the same time, she injected even more profound qi. As for Long Yunjan's profound qi, it seemed as though it had obtained a huge boost and nourishment, as it automatically climbed onto Yi-Ching Luo's profound qi, as it kept on merging. With Yi-Ching Luo's assistance, that lump of profound qi in Long Yunjan's body became braver the more it fought, and in one fell swoop, it completely swallowed the other lump of energy which was originally on par. Soon after, the profound energy that had finished devouring his power slowly returned to Long Yunjan's profound jade heart. Yi-Ching Luo heaved a sigh of relief and was just about to let go. But she saw that burst of energy which was being swallowed. Before it was swallowed, it exploded into a ray of blue radiance, charging straight towards Yiqing Luo's palm. Yiqing Luo only felt a scorching heat attacking her palm as her hand was bounced off and she stood up from the force. She raised her palm in surprise, trying to see what the blue light was. However, other than the feeling of being penetrated by the blue light, there was no trace of it. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly. At this moment, there was no one to help her dispel her doubts, so she simply didn't think too deeply about it as she looked towards Long Yunjian. After the profound qi in his body stabilized, Long Yunjian's handsome face regained some color. His pale, thin lips revealed a faint blush. His entire body was wrapped in an extremely shallow layer of aura. That stream of air surged, flowing about from time to time, extremely restless. Upon seeing this, Yiqing Luo understood that she was about to advance. Yiqing Luo had never experienced just how strong Long Yunjian's ability was. However, when he transformed into a dragon, he directly smashed a person into a meat patty. Even if he became a human, his profound rank was definitely not low. Seeing his advancement, Yiqing Luo roughly guessed it. Most likely, the power that was fighting in Long Yunjian's body just now was the power that allowed him to transform into a dragon. As for his body, transforming into a dragon had already consumed too much energy. When he turned back into a human, he would fall into a deep sleep because he had used up too much energy. Without Long Yunjian's control, the power of the dragon started to become restless. Only then did it start to devour Long Yunjian's profound energy. When the two merged and became one, Long Yunjian would transform into a dragon, inheriting the power of a dragon. Thus, he was able to advance. Ugh! A muffled sound came from the bed. Long Yunjian drowsily opened his eyes and met with Yiqing Luo's exquisite face. He furrowed his brows, feeling as if something was surging in his body. He thought that he was hallucinating and closed his eyes in pain. Long Yunjian, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? Yiqing Luo saw his look and immediately stretched out her hand to caress Long Yunjian's forehead. He touched the cold sweat on his hand. Yiqing Luo immediately took out a handkerchief from the profound phoenix ring and wiped Long Yunjian's forehead. The dragon's energy has been swallowed by your profound qi's energy, it should be about to advance. Calm your heart and activate your profound jade heart. Long Yunjian opened his eyes and felt the soft touch of the woman's hand on his forehead. This was definitely not an illusion. After hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he went into a blank as his azure blue eyes evaded her gaze. You already know about it. Chapter 387. The lady's soft little hand was like silk as it brushed past the corner of his eyes. Long Yunjian's cheeks flushed red as his heart inexplicably beat extremely fast. The temperature and strength of those fingers were filled with a deep sense of tenderness. He raised his eyes and gazed at that peerless face right in front of him. Her charming eyes were filled with smiles and her pink lips were filled with a smile. Her entire face was filled with that kind of comforting smile. This time, not only was his heart beating extremely fast, even his breathing had become extremely fast. He wanted to take in deep breaths but was worried that Yiqing Luo would detect his abnormality. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she felt Long Yunjian's temperature rising as her slender brows creased even tighter. Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? She twisted her handkerchief again as she wiped Long Yunjian's forehead. This time round, Long Yunjian reacted as he stretched out his hand to receive the handkerchief as he wiped his forehead. Yiqing Luo went into a blank as she retracted her hand. I'm fine. Long Yunjian's azure blue eyes flickered slightly as the hand which was holding onto the handkerchief tightened. On the handkerchief, there seemed to be a remnant fragrance from a lady's fingertips. His heart suddenly sped up as he felt a burst of intense pain. He clasped the handkerchief as he covered his chest. When you wake up, the energy which the profound jade heart had absorbed will be released and absorbed by the main body. Yiqing Luo leaned over as she helped Long Yunjian up. Don't think about other things for now, just focus on absorbing the energy and advancing first. Long Yunjian nodded as he sat cross-legged and started to revolve the profound qi which was stored in the profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo quietly got up and left the wooden house. She sized up the surrounding environment as she simply couldn't imagine that below Heavenly Academy, there was actually such a unique place built. There were mountains and rivers, trees and flowers, grass and wood, full of vitality. She walked one round around the surroundings, and by the time she returned to the wooden house was already enveloped by a ball of heaven and earth's spiritual qi. A large amount of profound qi encircled the wooden house as it flowed bit by bit. Yiqing Luo's expression turned joyful as she closed her eyes to sense it. When she opened her eyes again, she couldn't help but laughed out loud. No wonder Long Yunjian would build such a place below devil class. This cave contained the purest heaven and earth's spiritual qi. The particles in the air were all spiritual energy. This place was just like the space within the Azure Dew bracelet. It contained abundant heaven and earth spiritual energy, and was the best place to cultivate. When Yiqing Luo had just entered the cave, she didn't sense any peculiarities in the heaven and earth spiritual qi because she had long been accustomed to it in the Azure Dew bracelet. If it wasn't for the fact that the wooden house was surrounded by the heaven and earth spiritual qi, Yiqing Luo probably wouldn't have thought of such a deep level. If he took out his divine sense to enter the Azure Dew bracelet to cultivate at night, and then came here to cultivate during the day, the path of advancement was simply too easy. The balls of spiritual energy swarmed towards the wooden hut one after another. The spiritual qi that was originally absorbed would be immediately replenished by the next spiritual qi in the next second. The cycle continued for about 20 to 30 times. The wooden house suddenly emitted a strong light, and a strong wave shot out from the wooden house, stirring up a cloud of dust. At the same time, when Yiqing Luo sensed the advancement, her figure swiftly retreated and leapt onto a treetop, avoiding the consequence of eating a mouthful of sand. Following that, she saw a strong burst of profound qi, rushing up to the peak of the wooden house. That burst of profound qi was extremely dazzling, and Yiqing Luo wasn't able to discern what color of light it was. Under the cover of that light, profound qi encircled the wooden house, wave after wave of surging. After a while, the wooden door was opened. Yiqing Luo leapt down from the treetop, and was just about to inquire about his advancement. Chapter 388. Long Yunjian used one hand to wipe his hair, which was drenched in sweat, as he held a handful of hair in his hand as the remaining hair fell onto his bare shoulders. The man's figure was tall and well-built with distinct muscles. Sweat flowed along that fair skin as it dripped down. When Long Yunjian saw Yiqing Luo outside the door, his entire body stiffened as he stood stunned on the spot. Yiqing Luo had not expected that the minute Long Yunjian advanced, she would be able to see such a feast for the eyes. Hence, the scene seemed to have frozen at this scene. For pairs of eyes met as they looked at each other. After a long while, Long Yunjian's handsome face seemed as though it was on fire as he hugged his chest, and like a rabbit, he scuttled into the wooden house. That wooden door was slammed down with great force as it shook several times in the air. A loud bam sound made Yiqing Luo slightly dazed. Why did this scene look like she had played a rogue and molested Long Yunjian? After another long while, Yiqing Luo's legs were numb from standing, but there was no sound from the wooden house at all. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly as she walked over directly. Just as she was about to push the door open, she heard Long Yunjian's anxious shout from inside, "Don't come in." Yiqing Luo's hand froze as her brows creased further. She pretended as though she hadn't heard Long Yunjian's voice as she directly pushed open the wooden door and walked in. She saw Long Yunjian sitting on the bed with his back facing her as the blue long robe was wrapped tightly around his body. When he heard the footsteps, his broad back actually trembled a little. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Didn't he look like a good young man who had been teased? She walked over, but before she got close to the bed, Long Yunjian shrank into the wooden bed. Don't come over. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she walked over in big steps in a bad mood. Just as Long Yunjian was about to get up and escape, she stretched out her hand and grabbed his collar. The lady's slender and fair fingers were like jade, without a single speck of dust. But her strength was shockingly huge, and no matter how Long Yunjian struggled, he was unable to break free. You're not a lady, why are you trying to be so secretive? I've seen more men than you've eaten. I haven't even blushed, so why are you so shy? Seeing Long Yunjian's flushed red face, Yiqing Luo felt even more speechless. In the 21st century, when she went to the seaside overseas, she had seen many naked men, not to mention how many shirtless men she had seen. Although Long Yunjian's figure was great, it was a feast for the eyes. But it wasn't to the extent where her eyes would light up and she would do anything to him, right? Moreover, in terms of figure, Dmo Xian's figure was even better. And as long as she opened her mouth, Dmo Xian would definitely take it off without a second word. She didn't know what Long Yunjian was shy about. As though he was shocked by Yiqing Luo's bold and unrestrained words, Long Yunjian's pair of azure blue eyes suddenly widened as his flushed red face, without any trace of his usual aloofness. You've seen a lot, he couldn't bring himself to ask, so he kept it in his mouth and kept repeating the same word. Yiqing Luo simply covered his mouth. Yes, I've seen a lot. Basically, I've seen all kinds of men, even those who are asterisk. Don't worry, I'm not so deranged that I can't control myself when I see your upper body naked, to the extent of pressing you down directly. A series of words were spat out from Yiqing Luo's mouth. Saying that, Yiqing Luo loosened Long Yunjian's collar and casually pushed him. Long Yunjian fell onto the bed, as he laid there in a daze, maintaining the fallen position, as he unbelievably repeated Yiqing Luo's words in his mind. These words, even those dissolute young masters might not be able to say it in front of others without any restraint. Chapter 389. Seen all kinds of men. You've even seen Quan. And he's crazy enough to not be able to hold himself down. Were these really the words of a woman? What? Do you still have any questions? Seeing that Long Yunjian was still in a daze and did not respond, she frowned. Long Yunjian climbed up in a daze as he stared blankly at Yiqing Luo, and after some time, he stuttered as he shook his head, no. Saying that, he subconsciously lowered his eyelids, not daring to look at Yiqing Luo's bewitching eyes. Earlier when he was in a daze, he seemed to have seen Yiqing Luo. She recognized him as the Blue Dragon and even guided him in his advancement. That moaning sound, as well as the warm touch on his forehead, were so real. Long Yunjian almost thought that Yiqing Luo had really come to his secret place. But when he opened his eyes, the wooden house was obviously empty, with no sign of Yiqing Luo. This was his secret place and he had never brought Yiqing Luo here before, so how could Yiqing Luo possibly appear here? Another dream. This wasn't his first time dreaming of Yiqing Luo. After meeting Yiqing Luo, he had dreamed of her twice. However, in the dream, she looked even more heroic. She held a long sword in her hand and wore a red battle robe. After his advancement, he was covered in sweat. He took off his shirt and prepared to wash it in the pool. But he had not expected Yiqing Luo to be outside. With a "pa" sound, Yiqing Luo bent her fingers and tapped lightly on Long Yunjian's head. Stop letting your imagination run wild. Since you've already advanced, tell me everything properly. Long Yunjian was in pain as he regained his senses and shot his gaze back onto Yiqing Luo's face. Recalling Yiqing Luo's earlier sentence of, not to the extent of pressing him down, his mood turned downcast. Long Yun-jeon frowned. Could it be that he was too hasty in his advancement this time and it affected his body? Why do I keep feeling my heartbeat speeding up and heavy from time to time? You're a dragon. Yiqing Luo searched through her mind but had never heard of a dragon that could transform into a human in the Nirvana realm. Among the beasts, dragons were the leaders of the beasts and represented an incomparably noble status. Dragons were extremely rare in the Nirvana realm. There were only 3 known dragons in the entire Nirvana realm. Even if it was Dmo Xian, he might not be able to subdue a dragon as his own war pet. Furthermore, dragons were extremely difficult to reproduce and grow. It would take at least 10,000 years to become an adult dragon, not to mention cultivating into a human form. Yes. Long Yun-jeon did not try to hide anything. His eyelashes fluttered. I didn't know I was a dragon before I met Chi-Chi. You don't know I'm a dragon. No wonder his expression was so strange when he was talking to Chi-Chi. Perhaps Chi-Chi had sensed the dragon aura on Long Yun-jeon and told him the truth. I don't know. I don't know anything about my past. Long Yun-jeon's eyes were filled with bewilderment, his azure blue pupils were like ripples lingering on water. Ever since I can remember, I've been in this heavenly academy, and the director sent me to the devil class. Yiqing Luo was shocked. You mean, you lost your memory? Did you lose your memory after coming to the academy? Or was it the director who sent Long Yun-jeon to the devil class? If Long Yun-jeon was a dragon in human form, then his own ability was absolutely not bad. Otherwise Long Yun-jeon would not have come to the devil class, and even turned these trash into geniuses. Chapter 390. He wasn't a waste but he was sent to devil class. Especially this person was the director. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but suspect that Long Yun-jeon's amnesia might have something to do with the director. Other than my name, other than devil class, I don't remember anyone or anything. Long Yun-jeon shook his head slowly as his face revealed a painful expression. A person, without any memories of the past. Towards everything in the past, it was a blank slate. How fearful and helpless must one be in life? Yiqing Luo's brows softened a little as she sighed softly. Do you remember why you came to devil class? Because of my pair of eyes. Long Yun-jeon suddenly raised his eyes. His azure blue eyes were like a ravaged gem, sparkling with a clear luster. Yiqing Luo's fingertip was just about to touch it when Long Yun-jeon's face flushed red as he retreated backwards. You're the first person to praise my beautiful eyes. He raised his hand and touched his eyes as his lips curled into a bitter smile. Because of this pair of eyes of mine, the students all say that I'm a monster. The students from the other classes have always bullied me. So the director sent me to devil class. At this point, he chuckled again. Only this time, his smile revealed a relaxed tone. Devil class's students will not despise my eyes, nor will they treat me as a different species. So, you train these students to become strong, so that they don't need to look at other people's strange gazes? Yes and no. Long Yun-jeon nodded his head but immediately shook his head, the original intention of helping them, maybe it's because these people's goodwill towards me, infected me. And training them is because I want to find back my own memories. Based on one's own strength, in this unfamiliar place where he had no memories, there was no way he could survive for long. Not to mention searching for his own memories. He could only make himself stronger, to make his own team stronger. Only then would they be able to survive in this world where the strong preyed on the weak, and have the chance to find his own memories. These few years, I've been enduring silently. Until your arrival. At this point, Long Yun-jeon's blue eyes became misty. The moment I saw you, I had a strong premonition. Perhaps it's the sixth sense of a dragon, or perhaps it's Chi-Chi's sacred beast sense. I know that perhaps I can get the answer from you if I want to find out the truth. As expected, you have a holy beast, the white tiger of the 4 great holy beasts. The smile on Long Yun-jan's face became a little gentler. She was used to his usual calmness and aloofness. Looking at that smile again, that warm smile, Yiqing Luo was in a daze for a moment. Chi-Chi recognized me. It smelled the scent of the dragon clan on me. As Long Yun-jan spoke, his voice gradually became excited. Chi-Chi said that I'm a beast just like him. It's just that our levels are different. It is one of the high and mighty ancient sacred beasts, and I am a human dragon of the upper realm. Human dragon. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened. Human dragon. She had never heard this pronoun before. Moreover, the upper realm. What is the upper realm? Yiqing Luo didn't know much. Once, Shiju's mother had mentioned about the upper realm. That was the 3 realms above Nirvana realm. It was rumored that only those who became the strongest in Nirvana realm would be sent to the upper realm, in order to maintain the peace of Nirvana realm. To put it simply, it was to become the strongest in Nirvana realm, stepping into the sky mystic supremacy, which was the legendary level of virtuous mystic, spirit mystic. Then they would be led into the upper realm by the envoys from the upper realm. Chapter 391. So when she mentioned the upper realm, Yiqing Luo's mouth turned into an O shape. Chi-Chi said, the human dragon's position in the dragon clan is second only to one of the 4 ancient sacred beasts, Azure Dragon. Long Yun-jan saw that she understood what kind of place the upper realm was and directly chose the human dragon to explain. It's already difficult for other high-leveled mirage beasts to cultivate into a human, and it's even more difficult for the dragon clan. Our human dragon clan, every dragon can transform into a human, but the price to pay is too high. Because of this, there aren't many dragons in the human dragon clan. At its most prosperous time, there were only 300 overdragons, and gradually, there were only 100 overdragons left. After that, in a great battle in the upper realm, the human dragon clan was exterminated, and I may be the human dragon who escaped from the upper realm during the battle. These were all Chi-Chi's remarks and guesses. Long Yun-jan lowered his eyelids. Actually, I still can't believe it, and haven't figured out the cause and effect of this matter. Ever since he could remember, his wish was to find out his origins, to regain his memories. But now, knowing his own origins, Long Yun-jan didn't feel any joy at all. He wasn't human, so he had a pair of different eyes. Moreover, the identity of a human dragon was too heavy. In the great battle in the upper realm, the human dragon clan was exterminated. Which meant that he was shouldering the blood feud of the human dragon clan. Everything that he knew was pressing on him one by one. After knowing all these, Long Yun-jan wanted to tell Yiqing Luo. Because Yiqing Luo was Chi-Chi's master, she would definitely be able to give him an answer on what to do. But every time he saw Yiqing Luo, he didn't know where to start. He wasn't human, but a dragon. This sentence, he couldn't say it out. Was he afraid that after Yiqing Luo knew all these, she would despise him for being a monster? Or was he afraid that Yiqing Luo would also use that strange gaze to look at him? Long Yun-jan couldn't explain clearly what kind of feeling this was. Are you resisting your identity as a human dragon, or resisting the blood feud of the human dragon clan? The lady's clear voice, light and pleasant, spitting out every word extremely clearly. A soft little hand rested on his shoulder. Long Yun-jan was stunned. The little hand on his shoulder was very warm, so warm that it seemed to seep through his clothes and heat up his skin. Long Yun-jan's heart uncontrollably sped up again. This kind of inexplicable feeling made Long Yun-jan feel vexed as he wanted to push Yiqing Luo's hand away, but he couldn't bear to. When he heard Yiqing Luo revealing his thoughts in one sentence, he instantly had a flustered feeling as though his inner thoughts had been seen through. This kind of panic came out of nowhere. What did he have that he was afraid of Yi Qing Luo seeing through? If you reject the identity of a human dragon, you just need to live as a human. If you don't say anything, who will know? Yi Qing Luo's voice was indifferent, with a calming effect. Since you've chosen to live as a human, then this blood feud has nothing to do with you, right? Yi Qing Luo's tone was very serious and wasn't teasing. If others knew about Ren Long's identity, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Heaven chose to make you lose your memory, to let you stay in the devil class, so it might be Heaven's will, to let you start your life anew, as a human, live on. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a warm arc. The war in the upper realm was bound to be a huge war. Chapter 392. The path of revenge is too arduous and too dangerous. It's better to leave this life and leave you, the only human dragon bloodline. Perhaps, one day in the future, we will be able to head to the upper realm. When we have that kind of strength, if you wish, you can investigate everything about the human dragon clan and investigate your own companions. Yi Qing Luo's words were very light, but it contained a lot of power. Before we have enough strength, what we need to do is to live well, and fight for more possibilities. This was also Yi Qing Luo's way of survival. Losing her profound heart jade, she almost lost her life. If it wasn't for the fact that Dmo Xian gave her a profound heart jade, she would have been killed in Three Springs sect. It was impossible to say that she didn't hate the person who dug away her profound heart jade. What belonged to her, she would always get it back. But before her strength reached the level where she could get her profound heart jade back, she would not act rashly. Having lived 2 lives, Yi Qing Luo knew patience the most. Live well and fight for more possibilities. If she lost her life, how could she talk about revenge? How could she talk about getting back what belonged to her? The world was big, but nothing was bigger than living well. Long Yunzhan's pair of hazy eyes gradually brightened up. The azure blue waves were like circles of ripples. Thank you. Long Yunzhan's eyes were filled with excitement. The thing that had been bothering him finally got the best answer. There's no need for thanks between brothers. Yi Qing Luo saw that he could understand, and her eyes were filled with a warm smile. Brother, Long Yunzhan's eyes flashed and his lips curled into a smile, and, brother. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Yi Qing Luo recalled that he had just advanced to the profound grade, that dazzling light. It really didn't look like an ordinary profound grade, just now. What stage did you advance to? Earth profound 9th grade. The 4 words were like lightning striking into Yi Qing Luo's eardrums. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly widened. What? Earth profound 9th grade. Looking at the entire Heavenly Academy, even including the Masters and Elders, how many people were above the Earth profound 9th grade? The human dragon was worthy of being the only human dragon comparable to an ancient sacred beast. What the hell? Transforming into a human, this strength was also unbelievably strong. It's all thanks to you. I was previously stuck at the 7th grade of the Earth profound realm, and couldn't advance no matter what. If it wasn't for you guiding the dragon's power to fuse with my profound jade heart, I wouldn't have advanced 2 levels in a row. Just as Yi Qing Luo was filled with grief and indignation, Long Yunzhan threw another explosive strike. One must know that when Yi Qing Luo broke through from Yellow Profound 9th grade to Mystic Profound, she had expended a huge amount of energy, and now she was unable to advance to Mystic Profound 4th grade and above. Not to mention the Earth Profound realm, if they wanted to advance a grade, some people would spend hundreds of years, and still wouldn't be able to move their grade. Back then, she had thought that jumping from the Yellow Mystic 9th grade to the Mystic 4th grade was already an extremely powerful talent. He didn't expect that there would be a person in the Earth Profound realm who had consecutively advanced 2 levels. Motherf ****. She didn't want to be brothers with human dragon anymore, it was too oppressive. However, Long Yunjian didn't realize how oppressive his words were. He had already stood up, and the expression on his face had reverted to his usual aloof self. This is a good place, the heaven and earth spiritual qi is abundant. If you are free, come and sit here for a while, it will also help to advance your profound grade. Sit. You must sit. Ever since she knew that this was a treasured land, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let go of this treasured land. Chapter 393. That very day, Yiqing Luo stayed overnight in the treasure land. He had completely forgotten that demon of hers would wait for her in the dormitory every night. Moreover, she hadn't even solved the problem of the dormitory being destroyed by the assassin and Long Yunjian. The current Yiqing Luo was enjoying the comfortable feeling of the spiritual qi filling her limbs and bones, lingering around her profound heart jade. His main body was being nourished by the abundant spiritual energy, and his spiritual sense was being healed by the azure dew bracelet. It was very comfortable. On the second day, Yiqing Luo felt refreshed from head to toe after a night of replenishing her qi. She stood up and swallowed another medicinal pill that the ghost doctor had given her to treat her internal injuries. Borrowing the spiritual energy of this place, she allowed the medicinal effects to fuse into her bones and blood. Bai Ming Lulu mentioned that she would be able to recover by 70 to 80% before the holidays. It was only the second day and Yiqing Luo had already recovered by 70 to 80%. Now that she didn't need painkillers, she could still maintain a normal expression on her face. If he wanted to participate in the training, it was still a little forceful. When they arrived at the freshman training ground, Yiqing Luo wanted to discuss with the instructors to reduce the training for today. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived at the training ground, before he could even speak to the instructor, he was ordered to clean up the second floor of the library. They had just cleaned yesterday. What else was there to clean today? This was obviously deliberately making things difficult for Yiqing Luo, not allowing her to participate in the training. The freshmen looked at each other in dismay. Wasn't Yiqing Luo the person whom the cold-faced instructor admired the most? I heard that student Yi was assassinated by an assassin yesterday and even fainted at the scene. A sharp and mocking voice came from among the students. Shengguan Liuli covered her mouth and laughed, her eyes filled with disdain and ridicule. What capabilities did Yiqing Luo have? He could only act arrogantly in front of freshmen like them. Wasn't he scared out of his wits the moment he encountered a killer? If he knew that Yiqing Luo was so useless, he would have used some money to find a high-profound class student to pretend to be a killer to scare her. The freshmen naturally heard about this as well. Yesterday the female dormitory had collapsed and Yiqing Luo was carried to the director's office. This matter was too sensational, and the academy had no way of completely suppressing it. In their eyes, Yiqing Luo was the strong. Even if Yiqing Luo was allocated to the devil class, but her ability was seen by the freshmen. Unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo fainted from fright after meeting the killer. This was something that the students were unable to accept. Instructor Chu's face was cold and his voice was cold. As a student under my training, you actually fainted in the face of an assassin. What a disgrace to my reputation. Now, scram to the library and reorganize the books that you organized yesterday. That was a reasonable excuse. Yiqing Luo understood in her heart as she lowered her eyelids and responded obediently. Instructor Ho's face was gloomy, his sharp eyes swept over Yiqing Luo. After a while, he put his hands behind his back, turned around and walked towards the gate of the training field. When Yiqing Luo saw that, she immediately followed up. At this time, the sky was gray, and the freshmen had already gathered at the training ground. Occasionally, a few students would pass by. Instructor Ho leaned against the door, his eyes cold. I know you're not the type to faint. She didn't expect Instructor Ho to be explaining to her. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed by the favor and shook her head. I know, you and Instructor Ho are thinking for my sake." Instructor Ho was silent for a moment. His cold gaze swept over her arm. "Are you hurt?" "Yes." Yi-Ching Luo didn't hide it. "How did you and Instructor Chu find out?" Face, expression. These two simple words were to answer Yi-Ching Luo, and at the same time, to warn her. If you really wanted to hide it, then you must hide your face and expression appropriately. Chapter 394. Yi-Ching Luo suddenly realized as she thought about it carefully. It was probably when Lu Xiaoyu was agitated and grabbed her arm and touched her wound which made her unable to control herself as her expression changed slightly. She had not expected such a minute expression to be seen through by the instructor. "Go to the library pavilion, Ghost Doctor is waiting for you there." When Yi-Ching Luo heard the two words Ghost Doctor, she went into a blank as she raised her head abruptly. Instructor knew Ghost Doctor. Wasn't it said that Ghost Doctor had a bad temper and was a lone wolf? What greeted her was Instructor Ho's stern shout, "Still not going to scram." This shout made Yi-Ching Luo's mind go blank. Instructor Ho was too immersed in his role. Yi-Ching Luo facepalmed. The two cold and aloof instructors actually cooperated with her to put on a show. Yi-Ching Luo touched her deafened ears as she nodded and bowed, with her tail between her legs, as she left the freshman training grounds. Yi-Ching Luo took the punishment slip and went to look for the administrator to open the second floor's door for her. The administrator yawned as he climbed up and shot a strange gaze over. She came yesterday and today she was punished to clean. He started to suspect if Yi-Ching Luo had used the excuse of cleaning to specially head up to the second floor to read the premium books. He even specially checked several times to see if this punishment slip was forged. But the punishment slip flickered several times on Instructor Ho's sensory stone. It was indeed the punishment order which Instructor Ho had given. The administrator had naturally heard of the legend of the cold-faced instructor and didn't dare to suspect anything as he immediately led Yi-Ching Luo up to the second floor. The books on the second floor were all swept clean by Qiao Jin and the others yesterday, neatly and tidily. Yi-Ching Luo was just putting on an act as she tidied up the books once again. It was until the administrator went down to the first floor full of suspicions when Yi-Ching Luo then walked towards the pill refining room vigilantly. The door of the pill refining room was half opened and not as tightly shut as yesterday. Her hand had just touched the door when her ears suddenly twitched. Her long and narrow eyes curled into a ridiculing cold arc. Her pink lips rose slightly as she hid the cold smile in her eyes as she directly pushed the door and walked in. After the door of the pill refining room was closed, a black figure appeared beside the bookshelf on the second floor. A pair of sharp eyes stared fixedly at the door of the medicine refining room. It was still early in the morning and the library was not open yet. At this moment, the entire library was silent. He could vaguely hear the sound of porcelain bottles colliding in the refinement room. In order to confirm something, the black figure moved closer to the medicine refining room. At this moment, the woman in the refining room muttered, "Juku's spirit horn, Chinya Lu, Ganoderma powder. These are the ingredients to refine the Juku spirit pill. This Tianyuan grass and viridescent spirit vine are the main ingredients for refining 7-star grass. It's used to treat external injuries." Soon after, the sound of herbs being pulled could be heard. The black shadow listened for a long time, only to hear a series of names and effects of the medicines. After about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the black figure was worried that the ghost doctor would come and catch him red-handed, so he quietly left the second level of the library pavilion. In the medicine refinement room, the woman who was leisurely dividing the herbs and muttering non-stop suddenly stopped and stopped muttering. She put down the herbs as her long and narrow arc eyes revealed a cold glint. She knew that director that old fox would absolutely not believe her words so easily. If he wasn't sure if she was really hiding in the pill refining room and had been taken in as Ghost Doctor's disciple, the director would definitely deal with her ruthlessly once again. Luckily, she was able to enter the pill refining room and ramble on about the herbs because she had the Ghost Doctor's permission. Chapter 395. Continue reading, why don't you continue reading? Suddenly, the bookshelf gave off a loud noise and behind the bookshelf, a hole was split open. Ghost Doctor walked out from the secret room with a cold expression. Yi Qing Luo immediately stood up and greeted, "Senior Ghost Doctor, good morning. Just wanted to find a lass who knows about medicinal herbs and has some innate talent to help me tidy up this alchemy room, but I didn't expect to pick up such trouble." Ghost Doctor gave a cold harumph. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes as she looked down, not saying a word. She was able to discover that someone was guarding outside. For someone as powerful as Ghost Doctor, he would definitely discover that someone was spying on her. "I can't be bothered with your trivial matters, so don't drag this matter into the alchemy room. If you disturb my peace, then scram out." Yi Qing Luo had heard that Ghost Doctor was only thinking about alchemy, and what he was most afraid of was trouble. Ghost Doctor's words were very clear. Regarding yesterday's matter, he wouldn't interfere, and wouldn't bother about it. Which meant that the only person who knew that she was locked in the secret room after eavesdropping on the conversation between the director and the guardian. Ghost Doctor wouldn't divulge any information about this. She immediately nodded, "I've remembered it." Ghost Doctor walked over directly, as he took out a few pills which were glowing, and casually scattered them on the table. "Keep these pills. Have you finished reading the books which I asked you to read yesterday?" Yi Qing Luo recalled that Ghost Doctor had thrown several books to her, and later on she was being pursued, and found out that Long Yun Zhan was a human dragon, so where would she find the time to read? She pursed her pink lips, as she carefully picked up those pills, and placed them into the tidied-up porcelain bottle, as she replied, "Yesterday in the secret room, I've already finished reading those 2 books. Don't think about improving." Ghost Doctor gave a disdainful snort, as he flicked his sleeves and walked towards the secret room, sorted out the medicinal herbs in the medicine cabinet, and pasted the medicinal names on the cabinet. Saying that, he didn't look at Yi Qing Luo's expression, as he walked into the secret room. The secret room's entrance was tightly shut again. Yi Qing Luo. Did he need to be so willful? This old man was even more willful than Guo Yu. Yi Qing Luo turned her head and took a look at the right side of the pill refining room, at those 2 huge medicinal cabinets. Adding them up, there were at least 400 to 500 drawers. Instantly, the wind became chaotic. As expected, no matter where he went, he couldn't escape the fate of tidying up. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly, as she deftly packed all the pills which Ghost Doctor had thrown on the table, and placed them neatly on the medicine bottle rack. Only then did he walk to the medicine cabinet and pull open a drawer. The drawer was full of all kinds of medicinal herbs, piled up into a bowl. At a glance, there were at least 7 or 8 different kinds of medicinal herbs. Even if he was afraid of trouble, he should at least put some thought into this matter related to medicine refinement, right? If these medicinal herbs countered each other and were placed together, wouldn't it be a waste of an entire tray of medicinal herbs? Could it be that whenever the Ghost Doctor needed a medicinal herb, she would directly take it from the medicine cabinet, and if she took the wrong one, she would casually throw it into a drawer? With the Ghost Doctor's personality, it seemed like she really would do that. The 2 tables that she had tidied up yesterday were in a mess again after she came out of the secret room. She could predict that in less than 3 days, the medicinal herbs in the drawer would be the same as today after she had painstakingly sorted them out. However, even if she knew this would happen, she still had to brace herself to organize the medicinal herbs. This would also help her to further understand the medicinal effects and shapes of the medicinal herbs. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath, as she started to organize the medicinal herbs one by one, one by one. Luckily she had read through 2 books on the foundation of medicinal pills in the secret room yesterday, and learnt the ability to differentiate medicinal herbs from 100-pill refining. Chapter 396. Yiqing Luo's hands and feet were nimble and her brain was working at full speed. With a single glance, he was able to identify the messy pile of medicinal herbs in a drawer. She sorted these medicinal herbs one by one and then opened another drawer. Yiqing Luo's thoughts were all placed on tidying up the medicine cabinet. He didn't notice that the secret room behind him was slowly opening again. The ghost doctor was standing at the door, narrowing his eyes as he watched her tidy up the medicine cabinet. His hands and feet were very nimble, his reaction was not bad, and his memory was also very good. He could accurately identify any medicinal herbs that he had seen before and accurately put the same medicinal herbs together. The ghost doctor's expressionless face softened a little, and his gaze was no longer as impatient and cold as before. His foresight wasn't too bad after all. This little girl was a promising young lady. The ghost doctor was a medicine refiner who was crazy about refining pills, and was extremely meticulous about everything related to refining pills. The reason why he accepted Yiqing Luo was because when Yiqing Luo helped him to tidy up the medicinal herbs on the table, he could tell that she had some innate talent in alchemy, which was why he was moved. He hated trouble and was too lazy to tidy up the refining room. Right now, the medicine refining room was already in a mess to the point where one could not bear to look straight at it. Coincidentally, Yiqing Luo barged in. Thus, he had the idea of finding a student who was pleasing to his eyes to help him tidy up the medicine refining room. From the looks of it, although this little girl was a little troublesome, she wasn't annoying. After tidying for about 2 hours, Yiqing Luo had just tidied up the first medicine cabinet. She rubbed her sore arms. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind her. "All right, it's already noon. Go and eat. Don't be a hindrance here." Ghost Doctor stood expressionlessly behind her as he strode towards the table, not even taking a look at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo nodded. She hadn't had a single drop of water for the entire morning and had spent such a long time sorting out the medicinal herbs. She was so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. "After you're done eating, scram back here to continue tidying up." Just as Yiqing Luo walked out of the pill refining room, Ghost Doctor called out coldly from behind. Yiqing Luo responded. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the Ghost Doctor, who had seemed so terrifying and strange yesterday, wasn't so fierce after all. He hated trouble, but he cared about her health. Although his tone was a little fierce, the meaning behind his words was that he was thinking for her sake. Leaving the medicine refinement chamber, Zhang Xian arrived at the first floor of the Compendium Pavilion, where he met a group of people walking into the Compendium Pavilion. When the two of them faced each other, they both stopped. Their leader was Shangguan Liuli. Behind him were 5 girls. They should be the students from Intermediate Profound Class 2. How unlucky. The minute Shangguan Liuli saw Yiqing Luo, her originally smiling face instantly turned gloomy. The lady beside her who was holding her arm also had a face of disgust. "Trash that was allocated to the devil class. What are you doing in the library pavilion? How many books can you read? How many words can you read?" The moment he said this, the other women around him covered their mouths and chuckled. "You don't know this, but this most outstanding student in our freshman training was ambushed by an assassin yesterday, and he fainted on the spot." Shangguan Liuli laughed coldly as she raised her voice. During today's training, the 2 instructors felt that she had lost face, so they punished her to the 2nd floor to organize the books. Naturally, the student had heard the news about the assassins. At this moment, the gazes which they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with ridicule and gloating over her misfortune. One must know that ever since Yiqing Luo entered the academy, she was an influential figure. The disciple whom the overlord had personally acknowledged, the mysterious and unfathomable Guiyu, the student whom everyone was fighting over, and had the guts to go against the faculty council. And so on, a series of matters. Chapter 397. However, the news of Yiqing Luo fainting from being frightened by the killers made the students not know whether to laugh or cry. Suddenly they felt that it was reasonable for the academy to arrange Yiqing Luo into the devil class. It was noon and there were quite a number of students who had just finished their lunch and came to the library pavilion to read. There was quite a lot of people. A few female students stood at the entrance and the scene of them covering their mouths and laughing attracted the attention of the other students. The students who were passing by couldn't help but cast a puzzled gaze over. Yiqing Luo was so hungry that she was lying flat on the ground. The minute she recalled that Ghost Doctor asked her to hurry back, she totally couldn't be bothered with Shangguan Liuli. Facing these female students' ridicule, she didn't show any expression at all. Towards those whom she didn't care about, why would she care what others thought of her? She walked past these female students and walked towards the library pavilion's main entrance. Shangguan Liuli's expression instantly sunk. At this moment, Yiqing Luo still had the cheek to put on airs in front of her. She even dared to ignore her. She listened to Shangguan Fangyi's words and had been bearing the grudge in her heart, waiting for a suitable opportunity to take revenge on Yiqing Luo. But every single time she saw Yiqing Luo, she would be inexplicably annoyed and had the thought of dismembering Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces. Hey! Yiqing Luo, I'm talking to you. Shangguan Liuli's expression sunk as she stretched out her arm and blocked Yiqing Luo. Previously she had suffered a loss in Yiqing Luo's hands and towards Yiqing Luo's strength, Shangguan Liuli had some restraining fear. But yesterday, Yiqing Luo fainted from being frightened by the killers, successfully made Shangguan Liuli dispel her fear towards Yiqing Luo. Waste was waste, unable to make a comeback for the rest of her life. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as a sliver of impatience appeared in between her brows. Scram. She had just settled down for a few days and now she wanted to jump out again. Shangguan Liuli's face turned black as her eyes stared wide open, not concealing her disgust towards Yiqing Luo at all. Merely a coward, useless fellow, training together with you. I feel that you're throwing my face. She took a look at the few people beside her. Among the female students, they always liked to form cliques. Shangguan Liuli was the fifth miss of the Shangguan family, and her overall ability was very strong. Naturally they were willing to treat Shangguan Liuli as their team big sister. He listened to Shangguan Liuli's arrangements for everything. On seeing Shangguan Liuli's eye signal, a few female students surrounded Yiqing Luo. The surrounding students didn't expect that as they spoke, they would actually start fighting. One by one, they put down their books or stopped in their tracks to look over. Get out of here! Suddenly, a loud roar came from the end of the library. With a ferocious look on his face, the librarian pointed at Shangguan Liuli and scolded, "This is the library, the most sacred place in the academy. If you don't wish to read, scram out of the library. Don't disturb the other students." The administrator frowned and looked at Yiqing Luo, "And you, get out of here too." The students were frightened by the sudden roar. Their bodies trembled as they quickly turned around and stood in a row, bowing their heads to the administrator. The people in the Heavenly Academy were all crouching tigers and hidden dragons. From the headmaster of the academy and the directors of the various departments to the street cleaners, they could all be masters of the world. Towards this administrator who had stayed in the academy for several decades, he had quite a reputation in the academy. The moment he roared, Shangguan Liuli and the other female students immediately lowered their heads and apologized. Whereas Yiqing Luo, who was similarly roared at, had no intention to apologize at all. Chapter 398. Shangguan Liuli was standing closest to Yiqing Luo. She was still bowing to the administrator to apologize, but Yiqing Luo actually wanted to take the opportunity to leave. How could there be such a good thing? Yiqing Luo. How dare you? Instantly, Shangguan Liuli raised her volume as she pointed towards Yiqing Luo, who had already walked out of the main door. You simply have no respect for your elders. How am I being presumptuous? The one who asked me to leave is the administrator, and if I leave obediently, it would become me having no respect for my elders. Yiqing Luo gave a cold harumph as the words she said made one unable to rebuke her. You! Shangguan Liuli's finger, which was pointing at Yiqing Luo, froze as she was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo's words that she was unable to rebuke her. However, before Shangguan Liuli could finish her sentence, she heard the administrator's raging roar. Still quarreling? Do you believe that I will throw you out right now? His words had just ended when the administrator's robust body really bent over to carry Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli was so scared that her face turned pale as she screamed and retreated backwards. What a joke! No matter what, the administrator was a man, a robust middle-aged man. If she were to be carried by him, wouldn't her chastity be ruined for the rest of her life? Shangguan Liuli was in an extremely disheveled state as she stumbled out of the library pavilion. The other female students were afraid that the administrator would vent his anger on them, as all of them kept their mouths shut as they timidly ran out of the library pavilion. Shangguan Liuli's heart was crying out in frustration. It was currently the afternoon break time and there were many students entering and exiting the library pavilion. Her current disheveled state fell into many students' eyes. She wondered how the rumors would turn out to be. The surrounding gazes were like needles as they fiercely pierced onto Shangguan Liuli. Liuli, are you all right? The female students surrounded Shangguan Liuli. But on seeing her pale face and a pair of venomous and sinister glint in her eyes, they all trembled. He subconsciously retracted his hand. And this tremble, this withdrawal of hand, completely agitated Shangguan Liuli. Who do you think you are? How dare you mock me? Shangguan Liuli didn't even think as she flung away the female student who was holding on to her and gave a tight slap on her face. That female student mysteriously suffered a slap as she fell onto the ground. Shangguan Liuli's pretty face was cold and twisted. She felt that these female classmates, who usually fawned over her, did not know how to speak up for her and did not know how to help her at a critical moment. How dare he laugh at her in his heart? That's right, ridicule. Shangguan Liuli thought that these female students were trembling because they were trying to hold back their laughter. He retracted his hand, thinking that she was embarrassed. He's sick. Yiqing Luo cast a sidelong glance at her. In her eyes, Shangguan Liuli was a lunatic with a serious princess syndrome. Living in his own world forever, he wouldn't listen to what others said. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste her saliva and turned around to leave. Behind her, Shangguan Liuli seemed as though she had gone mad, as she dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. Her expression was malevolent as her eyes, which made one feel chilly, stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, aren't you amazing? Do you dare to fight me in this year's interclass competition? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding students exclaimed in surprise. Interclass competition. This was the regulated competition which was held once a year in the Heavenly Academy. It was also the only chance for all the students to change classes and climb to a higher class. Over the years, there were only 3 classes which took part in the interclass competition, namely low, intermediate and high. Class of God was high above and there was no room for them to rise. They had never participated in this kind of competition. Chapter 399. This kind of interclass competition was considered as a team competition. Shangguan Liuli's words were obviously representing the intermediate profound class 2 to issue a challenge to devil class. This was simply bullying intolerably. Too cunning. Shangguan Luli knew that if she were to fight with Yiqing Luo alone, she would absolutely not be able to win. But if it was the intermediate profound class 2 against devil class, then the result would be different. Devil class was a bunch of trash and couldn't even be shown in public. Even if Yiqing Luo was supporting them alone, but after all, it was difficult to fight against 4 people. Could she go against the entire intermediate profound class 2 alone? It could be said that Shangguan Luli had issued this challenge to Yiqing Luo in front of so many students. Although it was a little sinister, but it was the most appropriate choice. If Yiqing Luo were to reject it, in this academy, the news that she had fainted from being frightened by the killer and didn't dare to take part in the interclass competition etc., her reputation in the academy would be ruined. If Yiqing Luo agreed to it, there was no need to wait for the competition. This result was already very obvious. Devil class would lose without a doubt. By then, Shangguan Luli would have another reason to humiliate Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo, who heard Shangguan Luli's provocation, kept silent. She narrowed her long and narrow eyes slightly, as she estimated the overall ability of devil class. This interclass competition would only be held in 8 months' time. 8 months' time. She could make use of this opportunity to let devil class wash away the name of trash that they had been crowned with. If they were able to get first place in one fell swoop and become a class that surpassed the high profound class, then devil class's hard work these few years would be repaid. She understood that devil class's students had been working hard to improve themselves, to make themselves stronger, to prove to those people that they were absolutely not trash. And the interclass competition was the only chance for devil class's students to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat only. Yiqing Luo wasn't clear. To what extent did Long Yunjian intend to train these students to, before they could completely reveal their ability? Because of this, facing Shangguan Luli's challenge, Yiqing Luo was still hesitant. After all, she wasn't sure what devil class's students were thinking. She couldn't represent devil class to accept this challenge just because of her own face. Shangguan Luli. Do you have to be so cheap? In the crowd, a slender figure suddenly walked out. It was Lu Xiaoyu with one hand on her waist and the other pointing at Shangguan Luli. Who do you think you are? On what basis do you represent the entire intermediate profound class 2 to issue a challenge to devil class? Do you think that the students of Class 2 are as despicable, shameless, and filthy as you? Lu Xiaoyu spat out a barrage of reprimands like a cannonball. Lu Xiaoyu had just ended her training and hadn't even had the time to wash up and change into a clean set of clothes when she heard the students talking about Yiqing Luo and Shangguan Luli having a conflict in the library pavilion. She didn't even bother to change her clothes and directly rushed over. Coincidentally, she heard Shangguan Luli challenging Yiqing Luo. Shangguan Luli was scolded so harshly that her originally smug face was now flushed red. That sense of shame once again welled up in his heart. If Student Yi has no objections, I, the class monitor of Intermediate Profound Class 2, represent Intermediate Profound Class 2 to issue a challenge to Devil Class during the interclass competition. From the crowd, a tall and slender young man with regular features walked out. His eyes and brows exuded a heroic spirit. Chapter 400. Xia Class Monitor. Lu Xiaoyu stared at that young man as her bright eyes widened. Why are you following Shangguan Luli's blind jeering? Shangguan Luli's eyes lit up. On seeing that she had a backer, she immediately smiled and looked at the man beside her, Xia Class Monitor. This call was called as tender as water. Xia Yan's smile didn't diminish as he put on a serious face. This is not blind jeering. For so many years, the interclass competition has always been between the low, intermediate and high classes. Although Devil Class's students are slightly lacking in innate talent, but they are after all Heavenly Academy students. This kind of big event, Devil Class should indeed take part in it. If you take part, who knows, there might be 1 or 2 students who will be able to stand out and enter the low profound class. That would be a new start in your life. If you don't take part, then you won't even have the chance. Wouldn't you have wasted a year's time? Student Shangwan has indeed raised an interesting suggestion. If student Yi doesn't mind, can we have a battle? Saying that, the smile on his lips added some gentleness. Looking at Yiqing Luo's eyes, it was also filled with a polite smile. Yiqing Luo frowned. This young man, as compared to Shengwan Luli, was even harder to deal with. Every word and sentence was actually reasonable. Yiqing Luo couldn't find any fault to refute. Originally Shengwan Luli's challenge, which came up with no rhyme or reason, portrayed the intermediate profound class 2 as a class that bullied the weak, sinister and cunning. But Xia Yan's words pushed the intermediate profound class 2 to a higher platform. This was the charm of words. It was obviously the same meaning, but when different people said it, the resulting effect was totally different. At this moment, those students who were originally ridiculing Shangwan Luli for bullying the weak and fearing the strong, representing the intermediate profound class 2 to play devil class for no reason, all nodded their heads, feeling that what Xia Yan said was very reasonable. And these words also blocked Yiqing Luo's path of retreat. If she agreed, intermediate profound class 2 would gain a good reputation. Even if they defeated devil class badly, that would also be a good reputation. If she didn't agree, there might be people who scolded Yiqing Luo for not knowing what's good for her. Just agree. You make it sound like the students of devil class are afraid. In the crowd, a low voice rang out. That voice was very familiar. Yiqing Luo raised her head and saw Qiao Jin sandwiched in the crowd, acting as one of the spectators. His appearance was unremarkable, and he deliberately restrained his aura. He did not stand out in the crowd. The minute Qiao Jin opened his mouth, the surrounding students all started to cheer, making Yiqing Luo agree to it. Everyone had the intention to watch the show. After all, the students of the devil class had already disappeared for a few years. The only 2 known students were Yiqing Luo and Mo Yuing. Everyone was also very curious. After so many years, just how much trash had been stored in that place that housed all the trash in the academy? Since Qiao Jin had spoken up at this moment, he must have represented the opinion of the devil class. Immediately, Yiqing Luo had no more worries. Her lips curled into a cold smile, her charming eyes flashed a long and narrow cold arc, slightly raised, just like what class monitor Xia said, this is an opportunity for the devil class, we cannot waste a year's time. Xia Yan laughed, student Yi is really smart. But, I have a request. Yiqing Luo restrained the sharp glint in her eyes, as she slowly walked towards Xia Yan. If class monitor Xia has the ability to convince the elders' quarters, then I will represent devil class to accept your challenge. What request? Xia Yan's brows rose, it was related to the elders' quarters. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.